unbiased coverage of Northeast and to hold on to a story which is real, which is Manipur. Stay away from stories which are narrative building exercises from TV studios. This is not a narrative building exercise. I am going to show you ground reports. Our conversation with the experts will be on ground reports. Those people who either stay in Northeast or are from Northeast or who understand Northeast. It will not be he said, she said, he said, and she said. We have our reporters in Manipur. Our reporter traveled to Churachandpur, our reporter traveled to Moreh, our reporters traveled to interiors where artificial boundaries have come up. You have bunkers, you have bullets, and you have that boundary between two ethnic communities. This is our show, and today our show is from Moreh, the ground report from Moreh. Let's have a look at the ground report. I'm going to play first two reports for you. And then I'm going to take opening comment from my input editor, Brijesh Pandey. And then I'm going to introduce our guests and take you through every report filed from the field, every interview taken from the field, every visual shot on the field, unbiased. How imperfect may it look on camera, but it is unbiased. Let's start.
देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से यहाँ पर जो हिंसा हुई, जो कल सुबह हिंसा शुरू हुई, उसके बाद देखिए किस तरीके से इस पूरे इलाके को, इन घरों को आग के हवाले किया गया है। मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित आपको तस्वीरें दिखाए। देखिए अभी भी जो यहाँ पर जिस घर को आग लगाई गई है उससे धुआं उठते हुए साफ तौर पर आप देख सकते हैं। ठीक सामने ये देखिए जितनी भी यहाँ पर दुकानें थी उन दुकानों को भी यहाँ पर आग के हवाले किया गया है। किस तरीके से जो घर का दरवाजा है वो उखाड़ दिया गया और उसके बाद जो उपद्रवी थे वो घर के अंदर घुसे और घर के अंदर घुस के ये देखिए किस तरीके से जितना भी सामान घर के अंदर रखा हुआ था उन सभी को आग के हवाले यहाँ पर किया गया है। यहाँ पर भी घर बने हुए थे। देखिए ठीक सामने मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित आपको दिखाए, वहां पर बर्तन रखे हुए हैं। इसके अलावा अलमारी देखिए वहां पर खड़ी हुई है, जिससे साफ जाहिर होता है कि कहीं ना कहीं ये घर था, लेकिन इस घर को अब आग के हवाले कर दिया गया और ये घर अब राख में तब्दील हो चुका है। सुबह तकरीबन 6 बजे से लेकर शाम 5 बजे तक यहाँ पर कर्फ्यू खोला जाता है मोरे के अंदर, लेकिन कल सुबह 9 बजे अचानक से, जैसा कि एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का कहना है कि अचानक से कुछ हिंसक तत्व यहाँ पहुंचे और उसके बाद उन्होंने इन घरों को आग के हवाले करना शुरू कर दिया। ये दुकानें थी, ये देखिए इन दुकानों को भी यहाँ पर आग के हवाले किया गया है। जो सामान अंदर रखा हुआ था उस सामान को भी जला दिया गया और जब तक यहाँ फोर्स पहुंचती तब तक ये लोग आग लगा चुके थे। तब असम राइफल यहां पहुंची, असम राइफल ने रोकने की कोशिश की, लेकिन जो खबरें हमारे तक आ रही हैं, जो सूत्र हमारे बता रहे हैं कि जो उपद्रवी थे उन्होंने असम राइफल के ऊपर भी जमकर फायरिंग की। हालांकि उन्हें पीछे खदेड़ने में असम राइफल जो है कामयाब रही। ये देखिए ये दुकान है और इस दुकान को किस तरीके से जलाया गया है। ये भी देखिए दुकानें हैं, इन सभी दुकानों को यहाँ पर जलाकर राख कर दिया गया है। हालांकि जो सूत्रों के हवाले से खबर मिल रही है, जो कि लोकल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का भी कहना है कि दरअसल जिस वक्त ये हिंसा शुरू हुई उससे पहले इस बात की इत्तला मिली थी कि म्यांमार के बॉर्डर से कुछ ऐसे तत्व हैं जो अत्याधुनिक हथियार होते हैं, सोफिस्टिकेटेड वेपन्स होते हैं, उनके साथ उन्होंने हिंदुस्तान के अंदर घुसपैठ की, इस मोरे इलाके के अंदर घुसपैठ की और उसके बाद सुबह 9 बजे अचानक से सबसे पहले आगजनी शुरू की गई। और जब असम राइफल ने इसका विरोध किया तो उसके बाद उन तमाम उपद्रवियों ने, और जो बताया जा रहा है कि असम म्यांमार की तरफ से सोफिस्टिकेटेड वेपन्स के साथ आए थे, उन्होंने असम राइफल के ऊपर फायरिंग करना शुरू कर दिया। तो कहा जा सकता है कि इस वारदात को जो अंजाम दिया, इस हिंसा को जो अंजाम दिया, उसके पीछे सबसे अहम रोल जो है वो म्यांमार से आए घुसपैठियों का था। ये देखिए कि व्हीकल है जिसको पूरे तरीके से जलाकर यहाँ पर राख कर दिया गया, उसको तोड़ा गया। ये देखिए ठीक सामने एक और मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित बालियान तस्वीरें आपको दिखाए। ये देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर जितने व्हीकल यहाँ पर खड़े हुए थे, टू व्हीलर्स, उनको भी यहाँ पर जलाया गया है। तो कहा जा सकता है कि जमकर यहाँ पर सुबह उत्पात मचाया गया। हालांकि 3 मई के बाद से ये कहा जा रहा है कि जो मोरे था वो पूरे तरीके से शांत था। ये जो इलाका है दरअसल कुकी डोमिनेटेड इलाका है और यहाँ पर शांति थी, लेकिन अचानक से कल सुबह यहाँ पर हिंसा शुरू हुई और हिंसा का नतीजा आप ये देखिए, इस पूरे इलाके को किस तरीके से यहाँ पर जलाया गया उपद्रवियों के द्वारा। मैं चाहूँगा कैमरामैन अमित आपको अंदर की तस्वीरें दिखाएं। ये देखिए ये घर है और इस घर पे देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर भी उत्पात मचाया गया है। ये तस्वीरें आप देख सकते हैं, घरों को आग लगाई गई और ये देखिए अंदर यहाँ पर एक ऑटो स्कूटर खड़ा हुआ था, इस ऑटो को भी यहाँ पर जलाकर राख कर दिया गया। घरों के अंदर जमकर बताया जा रहा है कि लूटपाट भी यहाँ पर की गई है। तो तरफ यहाँ पर जाता हुआ दिखाई दे रहा है। ये देखिए एक और ये दुकान है, ये बर्तनों की दुकान है और ये देखिए किस तरीके से इस दुकान में भी जमकर आगजनी यहाँ पर की गई है। और मैं चाहूँगा कैमरामैन तस्वीरें आपको दिखाई, ये देखिए ठीक सामने आप ये देख सकते हैं तस्वीरों के अंदर ठीक सामने किस तरीके से यहाँ पर भी ये जो सामने ये दुकानें हैं और ये कुछ घर हैं यहाँ पर, इन घरों के अंदर भी यहाँ पर जमकर आगजनी की गई है। देखिए पूरा जो ये इलाका है, अगर आप चारों तरफ देखेंगे तो इस इलाके को एक तरीके से कह सकते हैं कि राख के ढेर में तब्दील करने की जो कोशिश है वो यहाँ पर की गई। एक ये घर आप यहाँ पर, मैं चाहूँगा कैमरामैन अमित आपको दिखाएं, ये देखिए एक घर है, इस घर के ऊपर जमकर यहाँ पथराव किया गया। उसके बाद देखिए किस तरीके से घर के अंदर भी यहाँ पर आगजनी की गई है। और ये घर के अंदर की तस्वीरें, बेहद भयावह मंजर यहाँ पर इस वक्त आपको देखने को मिलेगा। ये घर हुआ करता था किसी का, ये किचन हुआ करती थी और यहाँ पर जमकर तोड़फोड़ की गई, जमकर यहाँ पर आगजनी की गई, यहाँ पर जमकर फायरिंग की गई। और ये देखिए अभी भी जो पुलिस ने कोशिश की होगी फायर ब्रिगेड की मदद से आग बुझाने की, उसका पानी भी यहाँ पर टपक रहा है 24 घंटे बाद भी। और ठीक सामने देखिए ये गेट है, एक सामने, इस गेट को भी यहाँ पर जलाकर राख कर दिया गया है। तो इस घर में भी जमकर लूटपाट और यहाँ पर आगजनी की गई है। और इसी से आप अंदाजा लगा सकते हैं कि उस वक्त का जो मंजर होगा वो कितना भयावह यहाँ पर रहा होगा। ये एंट्रेंस गेट था और ये एंट्रेंस जो गेट है ये देखिए ये पूरे तरीके से जलकर राख हो चुका है। ये देखिए ठीक जो एंट्रेंस गेट है ये राख में नीचे तब्दील हो चुका है। और जिस वक्त ये उत्पात मचाया जा रहा था उस वक्त यहाँ पर बताया जा रहा है कि पेट्रोल बम का सबसे ज़्यादा यहाँ पर इस्तेमाल हिंसक तत्वों के द्वारा, उपद्रवियों के द्वारा यहाँ पर किया गया। और ये पीछे का इलाका है, मैं चाहूँगा कैमरामैन तस्वीरें आपको दिखाएं। ये देखिए एक ये ठीक सामने एक और इमारत है, इस इमारत में भी जमकर आगजनी की गई। ये एलोरा करके इमारत है और इस इमारत के अंदर बताया जाता है कि यहाँ पर होटल चलता था और उस होटल को भी जलाकर राख कर दिया गया है। और ठीक सामने एक और घर आपको दिखाई देगा, इस घर में भी जमकर उत्पात और आगजनी यहाँ पर की गई है। आपको चारों तरफ यहाँ पर सिर्फ तबाही के निशान दिखाई देंगे और ये जो तबाही है ये दरअसल बताया जाता है कि हिंसक तत्वों के द्वारा अचानक से मचाई गई, अचानक से यहाँ पर जमकर आगजनी की गई, जमकर यहाँ पर लूटपाट की गई। ठीक सामने एक और घर आप देखिए किस तरीके से इस घर को भी यहाँ पर जलाया गया है। तो कहा जा सकता है कि महज 4 से 5 घंटे में सबसे पहले इस पूरे इलाके में आगजनी की गई। ठीक सामने की जो आप पीले रंग की जो इमारत देख रहे हैं, इस इमारत में भी आप देख सकते हैं जहां पर अब इस वक्त जो असम राइफल के जवान हैं वो हथियारों के साथ तैनात हैं, उस बिल्डिंग के अंदर भी आगजनी के निशान साफ तौर पर देखे जा सकते हैं। तो 3 से 4 घंटे सुबह 9 बजे आगजनी शुरू हुई और 12 बजे तक यहाँ पर जमकर आगजनी की गई। जब असम राइफल यहाँ पहुँचती है तो सबसे पहले जो कुकी समाज से जुड़ी जो महिलाएं हैं वो असम राइफल को अंदर एंटर करने से रोकती हैं और उसके बाद अचानक से बताया जा रहा है कि असम राइफल के ऊपर फायरिंग शुरू कर दी जाती है, जिसका जवाब असम राइफल की तरफ से भी दिया गया। सबसे हैरानी की बात यह है कि बताया जा रहा है कि अभी भी जो म्यांमार से जिन्होंने प्रवेश किया घुसपैठियों ने और जिन्होंने फायरिंग को अंजाम दिया इस पूरे इलाके के अंदर और आगजनी को अंजाम दिया, वो अभी भी बताया जाता है कि इसी इलाके के अंदर छिपे बैठे हैं, जिनके लिए सर्च ऑपरेशन लगातार जो असम राइफल के जवान हैं उनके द्वारा चलाया जा रहा है। क्या हुआ था ये बताइए आप।
Actually, here we are living in peace, but when the condition is very serious in the center, so we have to start it because they make our life very bad. We live in a very bad way. That is why what they have done in there, we don't even do it in here. Even 1% we don't do it. But since they let the commandos roam freely, and then even yesterday there was a firing from morning to till afternoon. Then in here there is one father and son. बिना कुछ भी गलती करके वो लोग कमांडो लोग एक कंपाउंड उसका घर में घुस के उसको मार के उठा के जेल में रखता है।
किसको?
यहाँ में हम लोग का एक बस्ती है, वहाँ उसका पापा और बेटा, अच्छा। उसका बीबी यहाँ में बच्चा लोग भी, अच्छा। ये सब बिना गलती करके वो लोग आर्मी का घर में घुस के मारा है। Even that is not allowed in army rules, I think, if I'm not wrong. Then see how they did to us. That is why what we want is that here in Moreh, we want that there should be peace. Only when the commando go out from here, then sub school वापस खुलेगा, everything will be normal. The only thing that we want is that, and then we want a separate state from the government.
Last 3 months से यहाँ पर शांति थी, अचानक से ऐसा कल क्या हुआ?
नहीं, ये तो लास्ट मई से शुरू हुआ था। हाँ। और उसी शुरू होने से अभी तक तो कुछ शांति नहीं है। हम लोग के लिए तो आप लोग बाहर से दिखने में से तो शांति लग रहा होगा, लेकिन अंदर में तो शांति नहीं है, क्योंकि इधर कमांडो रहता है। हम बिना कुछ करे बिना भी वो लोग आदमी को गोली चलाता है ना। अच्छा। इसीलिए हम लोग को चुपचाप नहीं रह सकता।
ये किसने घरों पर आग लगाई, कौन थे ये लोग, कुछ पता चला?
So which one?
किन्होंने आग लगाई ये सब कुछ?
ये सब आग लगाए वाला, there is a valid reason.
Okay.
Because that is done by us, everyone. That belong from the same community. We did it because first we don't did it, and then the government, I mean the state right now in Manipur, they hide many things. अभी भी सब कुछ चुप करके वो लोग करते हैं. Then बाहर में देखने से तो लगता है कि मणिपुर में कुछ नहीं होता है, लेकिन आप लोग अभी अंदर में आ गया, आप लोग सब मालूम होगा. इवन अमित शाह जी आया, वो भी हम लोग को बोला 13 डेज है कि 14 डेज है कि 15 डेज शांति में रहने के लिए बोला. हम लोग शांति में रहे, हम लोग कोई अटैक नहीं किया एक दूसरे कम्युनिटी को, लेकिन आप लोग वो लोग ने अटैक करने के टाइम वो लोग क्या बोलेगा, नसीब हो के ऐसे होता है.
हम लोग तो सिर्फ डिफेंस करता है, अटैक करने के लिए तो कभी नहीं जाता है. और हम लोग क्यों ये इधर क्यों ऐसे घर जलाता है, क्योंकि वो लोग उधर सीसीपुर कांगपोकपी की तरफ और इम्फाल की तरफ जो हमारा आदमी रहता है उस पे हमला किया था, इसीलिए तो सब गुस्सा होके ऐसा किया है. और लड़की के ऊपर भी ऐसा होता है ना. हम लोग तो
वीडियो है उसको,
हाँ वो तो छोड़ो, उस छुपा हुआ बहुत कुछ है अंदर में भी, अभी तो वायरल नहीं हुआ ना.
And I'm joined by Dhirene Sadokam, Editor-in-Chief of the Frontier, Manipur. A very warm welcome to you. I'm also joined by Khoraija Matsuba, spokesperson Kokomi. A very warm welcome to you. I'll also be joined by Professor Prasanajit Biswas very soon from Shillong University. But I'll take opening comments from you. What happened in Moreh?
Well, I think what happened in Moreh is something which we are witnessing in other parts of Manipur as well. It shows that after 3 months, the government is saying that not one person has been killed after 18th of June. But the fact is that the law and order is simply not under the control of either the state government or the central government. And what happened there, and the ground reports which have been shown by our correspondent Jitender Sharma, who is on the ground, clearly shows that either the security apparatus is either under the grip of the local vigilantes who are allowing the safe passage, which was said by a person who was manning the post by saying that we allow only Indian Army and Assam Rifles and journalists and nobody else can pass through it. And also the kind of destruction and mayhem which was there on the ground. So clearly, the situation is out of control as far as the local administration is concerned. I mean, it's a very clear picture of...
Sir, what happened in Moreh? I've been to Moreh. Moreh is a pivot for ACT East Asia policy. You could go to Tamu and come back. What explains this sort of a violence? And the cantonment is also nearby. You need to pass the cantonment. There's a barricading and then you go there. So what has happened?
Kartikeya, see, you have seen what your reporter has also reported, okay? But what has been clear in our minds are sometimes subjective interpretation from various angles, okay? If one sees it from the angle of security that is provided to the people and the properties for protection of lives as well as properties and other things, I think the security system has totally failed, okay, to protect every places and people in Manipur. That is why we have been reporting rather on the what you call the death and destruction and what you call the aspect of violence, So, but my question is, Kartikeya, right in the outset of this program, you had mentioned that we are going to show you, what is actually happening, less of building narratives and all. But for me, I think as an editor of a news outfit, news organization, the job for me is to interpret. But that's what I would reiterate again my single stand that I've been following till now. Just imagine India as an emerging superpower sending thousands of troops on the ground, both central forces as well as even army, and there are already army stationed there, including Assam Rifles and CRPFs and other things, and later on the induction or rather the sending of the Rapid Action Force and BSF, and so on and so forth. What I'm trying to argue is, had the amount of troops, aren't they enough to stop the crisis, or aren't they to stop the violence? Okay, so where have all these so-called security forces, including the army, where have they all gone if they have failed to protect the people? I understand that failure of the state system. One may argue that the beginning of the entire episodes or cascading effects of all this violence have not been properly controlled by the state government. But after a phase with the arrival of the central forces and including additional forces to the state, we did hope that some semblance of order and peace would be, on the cards. But see how many days, how many months, down the line, nothing seemed to be in place. And it's very difficult at this juncture, whom do you point your fingers at? Because we know that two communities are at war, and both sides are declaring war, be it in the form of retaliation, be it in the name of outright offense or counter offensive measures. So all these are basic, in basic reportage we use all this thing, but then of course mentioning who all are taking sides. But the level of death and destruction that is happening in Manipur is, it's not enough to talk in terms of what is the actual loss, So I think one is to ponder upon how can we or look forward to, bringing peace and normalcy in the state. But what are the conditions, or what are the conducive conditions under which peace can prevail in Manipur has been a big question, not necessarily only for the people of Manipur, but the civil society organizations and various other common people, of the country, cutting across all party lines, cutting across all states in India. So I think it's high time that we also question not necessarily only people who are engaged into the kind of a violence, be it the communities or also the government, state government as well as central government. So seeing this kind of thing, I have no other choice but to
I understand what I understand what are you saying.
But the complicit nature of the state. When I say state, is not state Manipur state government, but something. I think there's something which common people, also called observers, have not been able to understand. I think this is there is a rollout of certain kind of a playing of politics, which I think that has to be stopped right now.
More than that, people are losing faith in the state.
Exactly, and state here,
Khuraijamji, am I audible to you?
The state here,
I'll come to you.
Not necessarily,
I'll come to you, sir. Khuraijamji, am I audible to you?
Yes.
What explains this Moreh violence? Your understanding of it?
I think this is the strategy or kind of
I think there's a bit of an audio problem with him. Let us play out the reports. Two more reports which our ground reporter has gotten. These are the visuals from Moreh. And I can tell you that first, when initially in May the violence took place, a part was burned. Now the entire locality has been razed. Let's play out those reports.
किस तरीके से किन पेट्रोल पंप की बोतल से इस आगजनी को अंजाम दिया गया वो भी हम आपको दिखाते हैं। ये देखिए, ये आप ये बोतल देखिए, ये इस तरीके की बोतल्स हैं जिनके अंदर बाकायदा पेट्रोल पहले भरा गया और इनको इस पेट्रोल बम में तब्दील किया गया और उसके बाद आग लगाकर इन्हें घरों के ऊपर फेंका गया, जिससे इस आगजनी को अंजाम दिया गया। और जब लोगों ने बचने की कोशिश की, यहाँ से भागने की कोशिश की, तो उनके साथ यहाँ पर बताया जा रहा है कि हिंसा भी की गई, साथ ही घरों के अंदर जो भी सामान रखा हुआ था उस सामान को लूटा गया। लेकिन जब असम राइफल, ठीक सामने मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित कुमार आपको दिखाएं, देखिए अभी भी यहाँ पर असम राइफल के जो जवान हैं है आपको यहाँ पर तैनात दिखाई देंगे। ये दरअसल जो मोरे है उसकी एंट्री गेट है और ये सबसे पहले मार्केट का इलाका आता है, चारों तरफ यहाँ पर रेजिडेंस कॉलोनी भी है और इस पूरे इलाके को यहाँ पर टारगेट किया गया। और इसके आगे का जो इलाका आप देख रहे हैं, आगे भी आपको तबाही के निशान साफ तौर पर दिखाई देंगे, आगजनी के निशान दिखाई देंगे, लेकिन आगे जाने की इजाजत मीडिया को फिलहाल नहीं दी जा रही है। और तस्वीरें आप देखिए किस तरीके से इस वक्त चारों तरफ इस पूरे इलाके में जहां पर हिंसा की गई कल, उस पूरे इलाके को एक तरीके से अपने कब्जे में इस वक्त असम राइफल के जवानों ने ले लिया है। हालांकि अब से कुछ देर पहले बताया जाता है कि सुबह से फिर फायरिंग शुरू की गई, लेकिन उसका जवाब दिया गया असम राइफल के जवानों की तरफ से, जिसके बाद अब फिलहाल जो हिंसा है, जो फायरिंग है, अब वो यहाँ पर रुक चुकी है। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से कटीली जो तारे हैं उनका इस्तेमाल यहाँ पर किया जा रहा है कि कोई भी इस इलाके के अंदर अब एंटर ना कर पाए। मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित बालियान आपको ये तस्वीरें दिखाए। देखिए किस तरीके से जो असम राइफल्स के जवान हैं वो पूरी मुस्तैदी के साथ इस वक्त यहाँ पर तैनात हैं और ठीक सामने आपको चारों तरफ यहाँ पर तबाही के जो निशान हैं, जो आगजनी के निशान है इस पूरे इलाके में, जहां तक आपकी नजर जाएगी देखिए दूर तक जितने भी घर हैं उन सभी घरों को आग के हवाले किया गया, घरों के अंदर जमकर लूटपाट की गई, एक तरीके से उन्हें राख में तब्दील यहाँ पर कर दिया गया है। तो कहा जा सकता है कि कल से लेकर आज तक इस इलाके में जितनी भी हिंसा हुई, जितनी भी तबाही की, उसके निशान आज भी यहाँ पर जस के तस अभी भी बने हुए हैं। लेकिन असम राइफल के जो जवान हैं वो आपको मुस्तैदी के साथ इस वक्त इस इलाके में हर चप्पे चप्पे पर तैनात दिखाई देंगे। तो ये देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर हिंसा को अंजाम दिया गया। और ये एक और घर है, मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित आपको अंदर से घर के हालात दिखाएं। ये देखिए एक और घर है जिसको पूरे तरीके से राख में तब्दील कर दिया गया। घर के अंदर जो जितना भी सामान रखा हुआ था उसको जलाकर यहाँ पर राख कर दिया गया है। ये देखिए यहाँ पर बाकायदा ताला लगा हुआ था इस घर में जो रहने वाले लोग हैं। हालांकि वो पहले से इस घर को खाली करके जा चुके थे, लेकिन कल अचानक से मॉब एक बार फिर इस घर के अंदर आया और उसके बाद इस घर को हिंसक तत्वों ने पूरे तरीके से आग के हवाले किया। ये देखिए इस पूरी इमारत के हालत आप किस तरह, ये अपने आप में बताने के लिए काफ़ी है कि आखिरकार किस तरीके से कल यहाँ जमकर उत्पात मचाया गया। घर के अंदर जितना भी सामान रखा था, चाहे वो एसी हो, इसके अलावा फ्रिज हो, कंप्यूटर हो, सभी को यहाँ पर आग के हवाले किया गया है। और ये जो आगजनी की गई है, बताया जाता है कि उसके लिए बाकायदा पेट्रोल का इस्तेमाल किया गया, ज्वलंत पदार्थों का इस्तेमाल किया गया और उसके बाद इन घरों को आग के हवाले किया गया। हालांकि इस बिल्डिंग को डेंजर उसमें तब्दील कर दिया गया, यानी कि इसके ऊपर जाने के लिए पूरे तरीके से मनाही है, क्योंकि इस वक्त इसके ढहने का खतरा है। जो इमारत है वो काफ़ी कमज़ोर हो चुकी है आग लगने की वजह से। तो हम आपको नीचे से दिखाना चाहेंगे। ये देखिए तस्वीरें किस तरीके से आपको पूरी जो इमारत है, पीले रंग की इमारत थी लेकिन अब आपको काली नजर आएगी, क्योंकि इसके हर चप्पे चप्पे पर इस इमारत में आगजनी की गई है, इसको आग के हवाले किया गया है और जमकर यहाँ पर तोड़फोड़ भी की गई। देखिए अभी भी यहाँ पर जो सामान है उससे धुआं उठता हुआ साफ तौर पर देखा जा सकता है। ये इमारत देखिए, इस इमारत को भी आग के हवाले किया गया। और ये देखिए पूरा कंपाउंड था जहां पर कुछ व्हीकल यहाँ पर खड़े हुए थे, कुछ टेम्पो यहाँ पर खड़े हुए थे और इन टेम्पुओं के अंदर भी ये देखिए इन व्हीकल्स के अंदर भी जमकर आगजनी की गई है। मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन तस्वीरें आपको दिखाई। देखिए जितने भी व्हीकल यहाँ पर आप खड़े हुए दिखाई देंगे, सभी के अंदर यहाँ पर आग लगाई गई है। जो घर यहाँ पर हैं उन घरों को आग के हवाले किया गया। जो लोग इन घरों के अंदर रह रहे थे, क्योंकि पिछले 3 महीने से यहाँ पर सब कुछ शांत था, किसी ने जरा भी इस बारे में सोचा नहीं था, किसी को जरा भी अंदाजा नहीं था कि अब से कुछ देर बाद यहाँ पर क्या होने वाला है। और सुबह 9 बजे अचानक से हिंसक एक भीड़ यहाँ पर पहुंची और उसके बाद देखिए किस तरीके से उत्पात मचाया गया। घर के जितने भी विंडो के शीशे हैं सभी आपको टूटे हुए दिखाई देंगे, घर के पर्दे जले हुए दिखाई देंगे और जो घर है एक तरीके से वो पूरा काला आपको दिखाई देगा, क्योंकि घर पूरे तरीके से यहाँ पर जलाकर राख कर दिया गया। और ठीक घर के अंदर का हालात देखिए आप, घर के अंदर के हालात किस तरीके से, जो सोफा सेट अंदर रखे हुए थे, जो सामान अंदर रखा हुआ था, वो सब कुछ यहाँ पर इस वक्त जल चुका है। और ये देखिए सामान घर के बाहर कंपाउंड के अंदर जो सामान रखा था उस सामान को भी यहाँ पर जला दिया गया। और ठीक सामने देखिए, मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन तस्वीर आपको दिखाएं, एक मंदिर भी आपको दिखाई देगा और उस मंदिर के अंदर भी यहाँ पर तोड़फोड़ करने की कोशिश यहाँ पर की गई है। इस मंदिर के अंदर भी देखिए किस तरीके से सिलेंडर है वो अंदर आपको रखे हुए दिखाई देंगे। यहाँ पर जमकर आगजनी की गई, मंदिर तक को नुकसान पहुंचाने की यहाँ पर कोशिश की गई है। तो हालांकि कहा जा सकता है कि जो हिंसक तत्व थे अब तक की तफ्तीश में साफ हो पाया कि ये लोग दरअसल म्यांमार के जो म्यांमार इंडो बॉर्डर है उससे हिंदुस्तान के अंदर यानी कि मोरे के अंदर एंटर किया इन्होंने और उसके बाद यहाँ जमकर उत्पात मचाई। ये देखिए अभी भी यहाँ पर ये जो आग है सुलगती हुई साफ तौर पर देखी जा सकती है। किस तरीके से अभी भी यहाँ पर धुआं निकलते हुए साफ तौर पर देखा जा सकता है। और ये देखिए ठीक सामने एक और गाड़ी आपको दिखाई देगी। यहाँ जितना भी सामान रखा था, जितने भी घर थे, जितने भी व्हीकल्स यहाँ पर खड़े हुए थे, उत्पात मचाने वालों ने, उपद्रवियों ने किसी को नहीं बख्शा। एक एक चीज को ऐसा लगता है कि जैसे चुन चुन कर आग के हवाले किया गया हो। तो यानी कि एक चीज साफ हो चुकी है इस उत्पात के बाद कि एक सोची समझी साजिश के तहत इस आगजनी को मणिपुर के मोरे इलाके के अंदर अंजाम दिया गया।
So the heat generated in Manipur is also having an impact in Delhi. Let me play out a couple of political bites so that we understand that why, because of so much of divergent opinions and lack of consensus, the Parliament of India has become dysfunctional. It's not functioning. There is no debate. Only the vote, a trust vote has been admitted. Time and the day has not been decided. Let's listen into the political bites and then we join our guests.
We have seen the statement of Chief Minister this morning. He is telling not only European Parliament but even Northeast is not interfering to their internal problems. So I have not interfered.
देखिए, बातचीत तो होनी चाहिए, दोनों समुदाय में बातचीत होनी चाहिए और जो भी मतभेद या मनभेद है वो दूर होने चाहिए। अपेक्षा करते हैं कि जो लोग भी इनिशिएटिव ले रहे हैं वो राज्य सरकार या केंद्र सरकार जहां से जिस लेवल पे इनिशिएटिव हो रहा है, जहां कुछ और लोग इनिशिएटिव ले रहे हैं, उसका आउटकम अच्छा होगा और वापस से शांति बहाल होगी। देखिए, उसकी जांच तो होनी चाहिए और पूरी जांच होनी चाहिए। जिस प्रकार का वह पूरा घटना चक्र है जिसमें दो बहनों के साथ दुष्कर्म किया गया या उनके साथ दुर्व्यवहार किया गया, उसकी पूरी जांच होनी चाहिए और अपेक्षा करते हैं कि जो भी एजेंसी जांच करेगी एक ठीक जांच कर जो लोग दोषी है उनको सजा मिलेगी। अपेक्षा करता हूं कि वो डेलीगेशन मणिपुर जाने के बाद बंगाल भी जाएगा, जिस प्रकार से वहां पर दो बहनों को निवस कर सड़कों पर घुमाया गया, वह डेलीगेशन कटिहार भी जाएगा, जिस प्रकार वहां पर पुलिस ने निहत्थे लोगों पर गोलियां दागी। वह डेलीगेशन राजस्थान भी जाएगा जहां पर एक आदिवासी बहन के साथ दुष्कर्म किया गया और छोड़ दिया गया। वह डेलीगेशन पंजाब भी जाएगा जहां 2 महीने की बच्चे के साथ दुष्कर्म किया गया। देखिए, सूर्जेवाला साहब शायद या तो पार्लियामेंट प्रोसीजर ढंग से फॉलो नहीं करते, जहां मुझे लगता है वो खुद मेंबर पार्लियामेंट और पार्लियामेंट में सोते पाए जाते हैं। उनको ध्यान में नहीं कि अमित शाह जी ने स्पेसिफिकली बोला कि हम हर बात का उत्तर देने को तैयार हैं, मणिपुर के विषय में हर चर्चा करने को तैयार हैं और पूर्णतः चर्चा करने को तैयार हैं। परंतु क्योंकि विपक्ष है, राजनीति करनी है, आधी अधूरी बात सुनकर आधी अधूरी बात कहनी है, तो इसलिए राजनीति हो रही है। परंतु आज भी भाजपा और सत्ता दल पूर्णतः हर विषय पर, मणिपुर के विषय पर बातचीत करने को तैयार है। पहले वह
मोदी जी का गवर्नमेंट, भाजपा का गवर्नमेंट, वो सभी बारे में सच्चाई के लिए सही जांच होना चाहिए, इसलिए वो सीबीआई लगा दिया। कौन अपराधी है, कि कैसे हुआ, कौन जिम्मेदार है, उनका पनिशमेंट देने के लिए हमारा गवर्नमेंट पब्लिक के साथ है, वो मानविकता का साथ है, इसलिए भाजपा जीत रहा है। देखिए, वो कौन है जाने के लिए कोई चर्चा में भाग नहीं ले सकते। वो अभी इंडिया वाला जो सबसे बड़ा चोर है, भाईपो चोर, अभी देश छोड़ के भाग गया, तो इंडिया वाला उनका उपास लाइए, सबसे बड़ा चोर उनका लीडर है, तो भाग गया। तो वहाँ मणिपुर क्यों जा रहा है? और उन जो भाग गया उनका ला सकते पहले, तो उनका भेजना चाहिए, वो भी तो सांसद है।
देखिए, इंडिया ब्लॉक के साथी राजनीतिक दल अपने प्रतिनिधियों का एक समूह बनाकर पूरा इंडिया ब्लॉक का एक डेलीगेशन मणिपुर जाएगा और उद्देश्य बस इतना ही है कि मणिपुर में जाकर वहां की वस्तुस्थिति क्या है उसे देखें, समझें, मणिपुर के लोगों के साथ कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर खड़े हों, उनके आंसू पोंछने का प्रयास करें, उन्हें सांत्वना दें और वापस आकर संसद के भीतर सरकार को इन सारी चीजों से अवगत कराएं कि वास्तव में मणिपुर में हो क्या रहा है, मणिपुर क्यों जल रहा है, क्या वहां पे स्थिति है। जो खबरें आ रही हैं वो तो ये बताती हैं, और यहां तक कि मणिपुर के अपने बीजेपी द्वारा अपॉइंटेड गवर्नर, वहां के बीजेपी के एमएलए, वहां पे जो भारतीय जनता पार्टी के अपने पदाधिकारी हैं, वो ही चीख चीख कर कह रहे हैं कि मणिपुर जल रहा है, हजारों लोग बेघर हो गए, न जाने कितने लोगों की जानें चली गई, क्राइम्स अगेंस्ट विमेन, क्राइम्स अगेंस्ट ह्यूमैनिटी चरम पर हैं। तो ये सारी चीजें बहुत मन को विचलित करती हैं। इसीलिए एक डेलीगेशन, एक वफद इंडिया ब्लॉक की ओर से मणिपुर भेजा जा रहा है। सीबीआई को जांच देना, सौंपना 80-85 दिन घटना को हो गए, उसके बाद एक विषय है, लेकिन पिछले 80-85 दिन से जब से मणिपुर जल रहा है, वहां सरकार क्यों अभी तक बर्खास्त नहीं की गई? भारत के अनुच्छेद 355, 356 का पालन क्यों नहीं किया गया? और दो महत्वपूर्ण सवाल मेरे जहन में आते हैं। मणिपुर एक छोटा राज्य है जिसमें मात्र 2 लोकसभा सीटें हैं। अगर मणिपुर 2 लोकसभा सीटों वाला राज्य नहीं होता, लेकिन उत्तर प्रदेश जैसा 80 लोकसभा सीटों वाला बड़ा राज्य होता, या बिहार जैसा 40 सीटों वाला बड़ा राज्य होता, तो क्या अभी तक मणिपुर की सुध लेने के लिए केंद्र सरकार का कोई मंत्री या प्रधानमंत्री जी खुद नहीं गए होते? पहला सवाल, जरूर गए होते। और दूसरा बड़ा सवाल कि अगर मणिपुर में कोई गैर भाजपा राजनीतिक दल की सरकार होती, नॉन बीजेपी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी की गवर्नमेंट होती, तो क्या अभी तक मणिपुर में राष्ट्रपति शासन लागू नहीं किया गया होता? मेरा दूसरा सवाल, इसका जवाब भी हाँ है। मुझे लगता है ये सारी चीजें राजनीति से प्रेरित हैं।
Brijesh, when do you expect the debate to happen?
Well, I think, in the next week there is a probability, because on Monday another very important ordinance is likely to come up for discussion, which is the Delhi government ordinance, and it's politically very important. But the line of the argument as far as the opposition is concerned is that whenever any no confidence motion is submitted in the parliament, the first thing which has to be done is that you have to cancel everything, and after cancelling everything and every discussion, you have to first debate on this, and only after that you can carry on with the other functioning, which is like the Prahlad Joshi is also the parliament minister, is saying that within 10 days that has to be done. So I guess if the government has to get it done, it has to be done in the next week. Sure.
Mr. Khurshid ji, am I audible to you? Yes. So I was asking you what happened in Moreh, and do you think that this violence is happening because of, there was a report of 716 people who had crossed over from the Myanmar side? Is it an outside angle, or do you think that this violence in Moreh has happened because of the internal dynamics?
There seems to be, you must be aware of it, that there seems to be a continuous effort in the, especially in the Kuki-dominated hill areas, where certain Meitei inhabitant populations are there. So they have already successfully, evicted and wiped out the entire Meitei settlements from Churachandpur, 100%, from Kangpokpi, 100%, from the Saikul, 100%. So even from Moreh also, almost, I think they have been, wiped out. But with the structures remaining there, they have an apprehension that, Meitei might again come and, settle back in their own, place of origin. But in order to, give a blow or kind of, make a move in that part, they keep on taking advantage of any sort of situations just to prove that every leader, every person who are, working at the forefront, they keep telling that every incident, every situation has to be justified for a demand for separate administration. So they keep telling, as you might have heard of it, that we are, physically separated, geographically separated, and now why don't we got separated legally? So in order to justify that, that argument, it seems like they have been trying to take chances for every bit of situation. Like the recent, violence that again erupted in Moreh. As per our report, you must also have the same report that some of the, ladies are trying to enter the Meitei's property, and they were trying to loot some of the stuff. And when they have been apprehended by the security personnel, there was an, protest from the whole community. Then later on, it turned violent. and now they are targeting the entire establishment and properties and assets of the Meiteis again. So it seems like every bit of differences or every bit of disagreement always turns out to be, on the same strategy of ethnically cleansing the Meitei settlements from all possible Kuki-dominated areas. So I think we should look in that line.
Do you think that the specific people have been targeted in Moreh specifically? It's like
Yes.
1993?
Yes, in 1993, no, it's more or less like that, because after that very incident.
Okay. Welcome, Professor. This is the ground zero which I'm talking about. This is from Moreh. Look at the intensity of the violence. Look at the depth of it. This couldn't have been done by 10, 20 people. This has to be more than 100 people. This couldn't have been done without some sort of an organized plan. It's evident what has happened in Moreh is a complete intelligence failure.
Obviously. I mean, you can see that the security situation is deteriorating. One angle, of course, is there is an external hand. And that part has to be taken care of by the national security agencies in a far more stronger way. The other part is this logic of retaliation. Both the sides are behaving like exact mirror image of each other, which is most unfortunate. Though there is a kind of an asymmetric injustice that we can see in comparison between hill and the valley, we can see that hill people have suffered from a kind of relative deprivation historically. But violence doesn't justify the ways to mitigate that kind of asymmetry or any kind of systemic injustice. So what has happened in Moreh also has another version which is heard, is that Manipur police commandos were there, and in and around Ilora Hotel, they were conducting certain raids and operations, which has scared a large number of people, large number of Kuki people, non-Meitei people. And then it was connected to some kind of acts of firing, where vigilantes were seen to be firing in a video clip that was widely circulated. So you can see that the angle of retaliation, angle of acting with a motive to harm the other side has been in operation. And this is what I have been saying, that the cycle of violence has set in Manipur. How do you bridge that cycle? How do you introduce greater impartiality through the state forces or through the central forces? That is what needs to be monitored. And there is no such supervision that is available, which is trustworthy, which can induce greater faith in the administration and the rule of law. And all these things seems to be bridged the way things are going. And the vigilantes have taken over the entire state. And therefore, that's an outcome of all this in this kind of a gross scale of violence that you are showing in the case of Moreh. So similar such scenes are also witnessed elsewhere. Maybe in Meitei-dominated areas, also similar scenes came much before. So all this is repeating itself. And that repeat cycle of violence is something that we need to stop. That security agencies.
But they are not. Prasannaji, they are not destroying a house. They are not. I have been there. Last election I had come here. I went to Tamu. I came back. Someone told me, go to Tamu, have some beer, come back, good food there in Myanmar. I said, as a reporter, I went there. And and I went there for 20-25 kilometers, and then I said कि मैं तो बहुत अंदर चला गया. I was feeling very afraid for myself because it was a 20 kilometer thing, and I came back. I must have traveled 30 kilometers inside. No one stopped me, and then I came back. Then I came back to the Indian side, and you have Tamilians there who work as traders. It was an eye-opening thing for me. But now to have this sort of a thing there, where you destroy the entire portion of the town, is very disturbing. It is like you have this fight in Delhi and the whole defense colony is attacked. I mean to say, you can have a C part of the defense colony where violence takes place on the B block. You can't have entire portion of it. I can see it. I walked, मैं यहाँ घूमा हूँ, I can understand it's the entire segment which has gone.
Yes, you are very right. That means there is a kind of a targeting which is orchestrated and organized. And it's part of that logic of retaliation. This will be built on a narrative whereby, a section of the same kind of people who are now attackers, their own kids and kin are attacked elsewhere in the same manner. So this is the logic of violence that is operating. Such violences are not to be condoned at all. And there is no resistance or no stoppage to these acts of violence. And this is something that is just reprehensible, that is uncondonable, inconsolable in the case of Manipur. The gory incidents that we have seen in other videos, the way vigilantes are using firearms, the way, the state system has literally broken down. All these actually contribute to this kind of a massive acts of violence that you can witness in the central part of Moreh town. But then the narrative also was there that Manipur police was conducting some raids and operations. So I don't know how exactly on the ground the actors and the factors, they collide, they confront, and such a situation, most unfortunate, and a whole colony is perished because of the acts of violence is uncondonable, I must say. Yeah.
Mr. Sadokam, what is this? Let's call spade a spade. Are there outsiders involved, or this is a cookie hit back, or what has happened? Or the police has gotten after some sort of retaliation has taken place against Meiteis.
Kartikeya, that's what I'm saying. The nature of violence has gone, the magnitude of destruction has gone beyond, the logic of what you call retaliation and other things. That's why you yourself said it's unbelievable that this violence of this magnitude, okay? And I think Athav had also mentioned that similar kind of things is like when you talk of, I would rather use the notion of sanitization as in security force language. Ethnic cleansing looks a little bit, I don't know, for a choice of word. But for instance, if you see the entire Meitei population had been already sanitized out of, Moreh and also Churachandpur and Kangpokpi, okay? And there were not as if there were no Meitei populations there. Similarly, the Kuki populations in the valley, they have already more or less vanished because of the magnitude of violence. And you have yourself have visited certain areas which you can, I think, feel the dynamics. So it's like beyond description, the nature of violence. But as we say, when you allow this kind of a nature of violence to build layer upon layer, and all in the name of retaliation or in the name of the kind of animosity which has been triggered by certain kind of political projects at cross purposes. And I think this has to be stopped. But who is going to bail the cat? I mean, who actually is going to do the job of actually stopping this the kind of a carnage, the kind of violence that we see that we are inflicting upon each other, okay? So the first thing is that there are people who have actually offered short-term kind of measures and long-term measures, but if the two sides refuses to concede some of the kind of their own respective positions, I don't think there's going to be any headway, and I think the violence is there to go on for a while. But at this juncture, to talk of a kind of a bridging building a bridge between these two communities had been actually virtually impossible till now. And so that's why I think there needs to be an intervention which not necessarily in the terms of the kind of intervention that we look for.
Mr. Thangulal Haukip also joins us. Mr. Haukip?
Yes.
What is your first comment? What is your first comment on the violence that has taken place in Moreh? Mass violence.
Actually, it started out of the violence by state forces. The police or the commando had been had beaten up one woman, and after injury, the mob got infuriated, and then they burned down some of the remaining houses that has been left already. So first, to bring peace in Manipur, you have to control the state forces. who have been, complicit in inciting violence. We have enough video to show that the state police forces has been, a part of this violence. Instead of preventing the violence, they have become, a part of a certain community. That has to stop. And even, some of the mainstream media that came to Manipur shows that the state forces, they have been fighting along with one community only, instead of creating a buffer and trying to dispel both forces. So this has been going on, and unless you stop the state forces to be a part of certain group, then you can't bring peace. So the state forces has to be neutral for the first place, and this can be only done by the chief minister himself.
Mr. Haukip, there were reports in newspaper there were outsiders, some 700 Myanmaris. Is this correct?
I have no idea. There is a civil war going on in Myanmar, and Moreh is a border town. There can be a fighting between because it's just few meters away that crossing Moreh is Burma, a Burmese territory. So we can't rule out. But I don't think that they would be intentionally crossing deep into the territory of Manipur. I don't think that the Burmese and other kind of forces would be deeply involved in Manipur crisis, because the PDF, and some other transitional government that has been formed by Aung San Suu Kyi parties, they have instructed that the forces should not be involved in Manipur crisis. So it's very clear that the PDF and other forces would not be involved in Manipur crisis, but maybe some local militias or other village volunteers, if there is any violence, could be involved in that. But how do it started? It started when the state police forces inflicted certain damage upon the Moreh people, and that infiltrated the women folk and others, and they resorted to violence and arson of some of the leftover houses in Moreh. And look into the kind of fighting from morning yesterday in Truzanpur Bishnupur border area. It's basically the state forces that is involved. The Kuki volunteers fought with the state forces, from the other side. So the state forces, the state police has been deeply involved in this conflict, and the Kuki community feels that they are fighting the Manipur state government. So that has to change. Unless the police forces are, thought to be neutral, and they are acting not on behalf of one community only, then only that time, then slowly we can bring some kind of peace in this state. So that order can only come with the order from the chief minister. So the chief minister has to give an order that the state
I think you made a point on which I would like to get Prasanajit and Mr. Athuba in. You are saying that the Kuki community feels that they are fighting the state government. Athuba, is that the clear picture? Is that the feeling there, that they are fighting the state government? And Mr. Haukip said that it happened as a sort of a retaliation. The police forces misbehaved. Prasanajit ji?
Yes, I can hear you. But,
yes,
I thought you were.
Yeah.
Okay. So as I have been saying this, you see, the state forces do not have a kind of oversight that it should have. And we have seen that the DGP was changed, at the very beginning of this entire conflict that has been created. So the state forces, when they operate, and central forces are also there on the ground, there should be coordination between the two. Now, left to the state forces, as Professor Haukip was mentioning, there is an apprehension in the minds of the other side that they are acting at the behest of a certain community, or in a manner that which is totally biased. Now, this is something that always remains as a triggering point in an ethnic conflict. It has happened in Rwanda that Hutus were attacking Tutsis, taking along with them the state forces. And in Vietnam also we have seen that the American forces, along with their stooges, were attacking Vietnamese population. So without going to the larger global context, in the context of Northeast or in the context of a riot situation, we have seen that police forces can become biased. Now we have to ensure that police forces and the state administration remain completely neutral. They should take the side of the victim. They, at the same time, should stop any kind of letting out through a very massive process of violence. Here the violence has been massive. The scale of this violence is very big, and it reflects a kind of a mirror image of all that had happened in the near past, maybe in the valley area or certain other areas. So this has become a complete division between one community and the other community, which is the most unfortunate thing. And therefore, the neutral umpire, the ombudsman, or the presence of the central forces were absolutely needed in Moreh town. I don't know why Assam Rifles were not brought into picture and why it was left only to the state forces. Apart from that, all this has happened on a day when central government was seriously engaging itself on table with both Meitei groups as well as with Kuki groups. And there is some kind of a simmering, some kind of a silver lining of a solution that was coming forth. Again, one side opposed the proposed solution of the other side. The solution of autonomy is looked upon as secessionism or separatism. It's looked upon as a threat to the integrity of Manipur. So these are tricky political issues that get embroiled into mobilization of people, and that goes into the ground reality. That is there very much in what has happened. If we take the entire context of Moreh, the firing that was happening from 2 days before, the continuous kind of firing, as Professor Haukip mentioned, in the foothill areas near the valley, and also the kind of operation that was carried out by the state forces. So all these have contributed to building up of a situation in an otherwise not so much impacted town like Moreh.
Okay.
And then the question of Myanmar's hand, of course, as Professor Haukip rightly pointed out, I don't think that there is much of an external hand there, but that is a matter that security forces will be able to primarily locate and be precise on that. Yes.
Okay, Athuba. So one version is that security forces misbehave with the locals, and the second thing is, do you feel that the Kukis also feel that they are being subjected to violence in which state becomes partisan? That is their perception.
No, see, let's try to be a little realistic and truthful in what we argue, because see, when Mr. Tongkhala said that they are justifying the entrance of illegal immigrants. See, the recent detection of 718 immigrants. Okay, just keep aside that one. Let's go to 24 April of this year. 24 April of this year, where 2,187 illegal immigrants were detected. Where Moreh, or the Tengopul district, where Moreh subdivision belongs, is with the highest number, 1,147, and the state government cabinet subcommittee headed by one of the Kuki minister, Mr. Letpao Haukip, they decided to build a shelter home for all the immigrants for time being, considering the situation across the border. However, they protested against that, and many of them were already being permanently, building houses, permanent houses over there in the New Gamphazo area, in the, the Tengopul, various part of Tengopul, and they have been settling there without even, undergoing the due procedure. And since that day, when the 2,187 illegal immigrants were, detected just on the first phase of the, detection process, since that day, 24 April 2023, that is just 10 days before the May 3rd violence incident. So they are now trying to justify all sort of illegal activities which they have been continuing for the past 25 years, since 2008. Since the day, the signing of the agreement of the suspension of operation with those, narco-terrorist Kuki militant groups. And, the government of India's mistake is that they are legitimizing, they are giving legal protection to all those militant groups who are the primary actor in this violence, which is very unfortunate. And above that, the recent Moreh, incidents, it is after 85 days of arsons and killings in Manipur. After 85 days, I think by this time everyone must be in complete 100% alert. The intelligence, the security forces, even everyone. The media also now reached Moreh. So how could that kind of violence be let happen under the supervision of the entire security personnel which are deployed in Moreh? So we need to look in that part also, because the state forces and the central forces seems to be holding back in controlling such kind of situation. If they keep on letting this kind of situation happen, how on earth are we going to look forward for a peaceful resolution? This is very unfortunate. Therefore, I think what Mr. Thankolal said about justifying the coming in of illegal immigrants, if they keep justifying this kind of act, then I think they are violating the law of the land. They are, overruling or kind of, disrespecting the law of the land. So I think that's very unfortunate.
Okay, I didn't see you. Mr. Hawkins, you wanted to come in?
Yeah. We never justify, people coming from the other side of the border. First I must correct Sri Khuraizabathoba that there are no illegal immigrants in Manipur. If there are illegal immigrants, the term itself says that there is a law in India that could deal illegal immigrants. Those people you have notified or you have, counted them. They are basically, refugees. They are not seeking citizenship in India. They are running into the other side of the border because they have been, pushed out by a civil war in Myanmar. So that we have to understand. As the biggest or the largest democracy in the world, don't we have any space left to, shelter them, give them a refuge for few months or few years, and they will go back. Just a few meters walk away from such border areas would be Myanmar or they. So we all know that situation, that dire, desperate situation. And from the start of the civil war in Myanmar, we have been saying that let's give them some, legal identity to stay for a while, like in Mizoram. But the Manipur government was so unwilling for the last 2 years. And eventually, Minister Let Pahokip was able to convince the chief minister. And while there was in the process, this unfortunate, ethnic violence started. And it's not too late also. Now, instead of calling them as illegal immigrants, we can start numbering them. We can start giving them identity cards, and eventually we can also monitor them. Instead of calling them, or instead of name calling and debating upon the situation of those desperate people, we can give them some rations. We can give them temporary shelters to stay there for another year or two. Then when the civil war in Myanmar comes down a little bit, then they will go back. There's nothing hard about it. And the Sagyang Valley, and other places, it's a a nice place, a nice valley where people could earn a lot of living from such commercial enterprises and other paddy cultivations. So people would go back immediately, and those areas are a cultural area of the Kuki Chin Mizo communities, and people definitely would walk in another parts of the region. For instance, a person in Moreh would walk in Tammu and come back in the evening and take rest as an Indian citizen. So this kind of relations, commercial and other relations, we have forgotten that. And it's not just the Kuki-Chin ethnic group that are, having ties with the other side of the border. Look into the Myanmarese Kathers. There are about 40,000, Kathers still there who are Burmese Meitei. And since the civil war started in Myanmar, we don't know yet, but there will be many, many of them who have, fled Burma and settled in Imphal Valley also. If you look carefully into the population also, you would find even Manipuris are also migrating, or there are illegal immigrants from the Kathe community also in Imphal. This is not just the case of the Kuki-Chins also, it's the case of the Manipuris also. I have known from the last 30 years that there are many Kacharis, Silitis in the last 30-40 years who have come from Kachar, Sylhet, way back to Imphal Valley, and they are settled in this place called Chekon and other places. We all know it. Let's not pretend that there's no illegal immigrants on the other part of other community. Every community has that. Even the Tangkhul community has, some of its population on the other side of the border, that is Myanmar. So this kind of relationship we all have, and let's not, demonize, or let's not otherize the one specific community in this trouble. So that's my point. And let's deal the issue as per the law of the land. Or if there's no law, then we can discuss with the Home Ministry and create certain things that could accommodate or acceptable to the communities of Manipur. That we have to frame it and bring it out, rather than blaming all the time to a certain community.
Okay, Mr. Tuba, yeah, please come in.
Yeah, see what Mr. Chongkholang said. I think there is too much of wrong facts. What I told was a report from the cabinet subcommittee itself. They were surprised to see that every refugees have been living in a well-built cottages and houses. When the cabinet committee recommended and advised for staying in the shelter home, they protested and they were against that. Number one, it's a cabinet committee report. Number two, when we talk about the Kathe, the Meitei peoples in Myanmar, they don't have any issue with the present ruling Myanmar regime. So there is no question of flooding their area. It is only the Chin Kuki people and the other PDF and the CNF people who are CDF people who are having the problem. So Kathe has nothing to do with that part. So there is no reports of one single Kathe being taking refuge in Manipur or any other parts of the beyond Myanmar. And regarding
can we conduct
regarding
the
no, I didn't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you, please.
There are reports that in
Mr. Hauke,
I didn't interrupt you, please.
Hauke, please, you have been part of my program for such a long time. Let him complete. Let Mr. Tuba complete. Then you, please.
Yeah. See, here I have a letter. I have a letter from the Ministry of Home Affairs. I have a letter from the Ministry of Home Affairs saying that one of the leaders of the Sioux groups, the ZRA, the chairman of ZRA, Mr. Thanglian Pao Guite, he was an MP in 1990 in Myanmar. And he became a citizen of India in 1995, and he even possessed an Indian passport, and his name is already in the voter list. Therefore, the Ministry of Home Affairs has written a letter to the state government whether he has, gone through the proper procedure as per the Citizenship Act as to how the person who was an MP in Myanmar in 1990s, just after 5 years, he holds an Indian passport and become a citizen in India, and now he is one of the top leaders of the suspension of operation groups who are going on political dialogue with the government of India. In this part, the government of India and the Home Ministry also has very much responsible in this recent violence, because they are legitimizing such kind of people from across the border. If this is the situation, Why don't we allow the chairman of the Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Mujahideen from across the border and come into India for a political dialogue? Why didn't the government in India apply the same logic? This is very unfortunate. And we also must, that is why we have been appealing the Union Home Ministry that a leader from across the border who had not even been declared outlawed, who had not even been banned officially, was being taken on board for a political dialogue. So this is the root causes, and we need to discuss these dynamics also in a depth. I think so it has to be, discussed in another session as well, thoroughly.
Okay, Mr. Hawkip now, please.
Okay, the dealing of the Home Ministry towards that area is, we can say that somewhat, mild, because they are fighting for constitutional rights of their people, the citizens in Manipur or other parts of the country, because that's very different from the Mujahideen or other groups who are fighting for sovereignty or slicing a part of the territory of India with Pakistan or with the intention of forming a sovereign country. It's very different, because that area they are fighting for certain constitutional provisions within the Constitution of India. So that's very different from what you compare, because you are comparing apples and oranges. So you can't compare, despite being, whether the citizenship of Thanglenpao is Indian or not. It's not up to me to comment. There is a law within the Indian Constitution to deal with such kind of problems. I have no problem in detecting illegal immigrants and dealing as per the law of the land. We have to do it. We have been saying that we need to deal with illegal immigrants as per the law of the land. But there are desperate people. There are refugees who are seeking shelter for the time being. If they don't want, a kind of provision provided by the state government or central government, then it's fine. Let them stay in their own constructed houses. But you can provide the kind of data that they have been settled here in this village, providing the details, even the Burmese identity cards and others, so that they can be detected. And when there is a kind of peace restored in Burma, then we will ask them formally to go back to their own country. So there's not a problem whether they have constructed their own house or not. It's about keeping the data about their whereabouts, their identity, their for instance the biographic data, which we are insisting newly. Of course, it has been opposed by many of the activists, but despite that, those data can be kept, and then let them stay for a while, and the Assam Rifles and any other central forces could monitor them, and they could they could be peacefully placed in the border areas of Manipur and Myanmar. So that's my take. So if you ask, or if you say that Thanglenpao is a Burmese citizen, then let the Home Ministry deal with it. And since they are not demanding or slicing a part of the territory into Myanmar, the Home Ministry has been talking with them and trying to deal with the situation.
Can I come in? What I really want to know is, Prasenjit, how come mobs have taken over the cities? Mobs have divided the villages. Mobs have divided the the life cycle in cities. Mobs take over the law and order in cities. How do these mobs? There is nothing called, as Paul Brass would say, there is nothing called a spontaneous riot. There's a life before a riot. There's nothing called spontaneous violence. Violence is always organized. Spontaneous violence ends in 2 minutes. Either one being dead or another being injured. There is nothing called spontaneous violence. Everyone knows. So how come so much of violence is taking place, and we say spontaneously ho gaya ji? Are ho gaya kaise gaya ji? Matlab, there is so many things there. Internet is not working. State is in complete command of the information technology. This is not 1960s or 50s where there's a lag of information. At a particular point of time, you would know what has happened. And even then, I'm surprised that mobs can come, burn and go away. Whichever community it is, it doesn't make a difference. You have destroyed infrastructure.
Yes, certainly. And this is a mirror image of, as I was saying, all that had happened in the immediate past. maybe certain other parts of the state involving the other community as well. So it's not a one-off incident. This kind of mob violence is part of the cycle of violence, as I have been arguing. And this cycle of violence is triggered by certain kind of an action, a visible kind of prejudice and biased form of action, especially if it comes from the side of the state. The way Manipur police has acted and the way people are aggrieved about it, that can clearly show you that there is an absence of neutrality. Had it been a central forces, probably there would not have been this scale of violence. So central forces have to be there in order to monitor law and order situation, in order to watch where the mob is formed and which way the violence is triggered. Seemingly, there is a complete absence of central forces, and there are only two sides. Those who are already polarized are fighting between each other without any intervention from a neutral force. Now, what is needed in this kind of a transitional situation, because we know a new political arrangement might have been worked out with the center in everyone's consensus, and that political arrangement might settle the situation and bring peace in Manipur, because there is such a possibility. So in this kind of a transitional situation, the situation needs to be monitored by an impartial, neutral security agency. And Assam Rifles is available, other paramilitary or Indian military is also available, who are not part of any of the community and who can really protect people wholeheartedly without being biased, without any prejudice against each other. So that kind of a situation needs to be brought into Manipur at this moment in order to make the situation of peace possible. So this is first point. The second point, the amount of loss that has happened. We have never seen any activity of reparation. People haven't been compensated. There is no attempt to bring people back to their homes. So people have to be brought back to their homes by doing adequate care work, by ensuring their safety and security. And that will require, once again, the intervention from a neutral agency, maybe from the central government, from the Home Ministry of the center. Otherwise, what is happening is that people keep stereotyping each other. It's not the case that Kuki community is not an indigenous community. They are a transboundary, transnational community, which have their ethnic links elsewhere. And whenever there is such a link and there's a humanitarian crisis, there obviously will be some refugees. Now, refugee issue has not to be complicated by saying that that's a deliberate kind of a move inside territory of another country by escaping the security mechanism. In that case, you cannot have the Moreh border in operation. That's an economic corridor which has been opened up. We talk about Act East policy. We talk about soft border maintenance. As part of soft border maintenance, there could be some people visiting from this side to that side for legitimate purposes or for the purpose of securing them, given the situation in Myanmar. And in the Myanmar situation, certain people are pro-democracy. And certain people are pro-junta. Now that fight need not be carried back in Manipur. It has to be understood that Manipur is a neutral space with respect to the positioning in Myanmar. The Kuki positioning in Myanmar, the Kathe positioning in Myanmar should not be brought back, even if they are divided by their respective positions in Manipur. And that should not be angularity to say that one community is an illegal immigrant and the other community is trying to do some policing over them. So that sense of suspicion, a kind of a suspicion that is built in the public discourse by naming one community in terms of something that is very foul, in terms of attributing to them some predicates which are unnecessary, which are not justifiable from a democratic point of view. Predicates like narco-terrorism or illegal immigration as a deliberate, willful act, as a mischievous act, is not something that needs to be predicated at all. And there is no need of generalizing from one case how one has naturalized and become Indian citizen to every other case. So we have to be cautious in building up a public discourse that creates deeper division. Right now, this is not the time for division. Such issues which bother us must be brought to the agenda of the table, and there should be a dialogue in terms of political constitutional mechanism, in terms of understanding each other's position, and in terms of building once again a sense of co-belonging and togetherness by way of dialoguing between each other. Instead of that, Public discourse should not be polarized. Then it becomes very post-truth kind of a discourse. One blames the other side and doesn't see what one is doing to oneself as well as to the other. We should come out of that mindset that we will keep blaming the other side. There should not be these acts of othering. The other party should not be blamed. What should be rather seen is how we can restore peace, how we can bring back a semblance of understanding and harmony back in Manipur by not being prejudicial to each other, but by accepting, tolerating, understanding the existential situations of each other. And that probably would bring back some sense of sanity at this point of time. Yeah.
Mr. Haukip, it's always been a pleasure to have you. But today, these pictures are making me sad. You know why? In 2018, I had the opportunity to travel to Syria. I landed in Damascus, they switched off the lights. And then after some time I traveled from home, Palmyra, Homs. When I reached Aleppo, these visuals remind me of that city. You know why? Because I did not realize when I entered the city that was the destroyed part of the city. So there was nothing, there was lights on. And then suddenly I came to the other part of the city next to the citadel. And suddenly there was party and other things going on. Here, I see the same thing. You have police guarding the ruins. There is nothing to guard here, Mr. Haukip. It's such a sad thing. You guard people. People make society, people make countries, people make ethnicities, people make nationality, people make culture, people make life, people create future. What are we guarding here? Burnt houses. It's such a sorry thing to see. It's such a beautiful state. Such a beautiful state. And this place is pivot of East. Manipur was supposed to be the pivot of Kaladan project. Act India, look East, act East politics. It's just all destroyed in front of our eyes. And we have our lawmakers who can't come get two communities to sit and talk to each other. Mr. Haukip.
Yes. We are also very sad to look into these visuals, what is happening in Manipur. And from the first day itself, on the 3rd of May evening itself, I have been saying in social media that there should be an imposition of president's rules to further, prevent such type of violence and rioting. But no one is listening. The central government is unwilling to impose president's rule for the last 3 months, and after 1 month we say at least bring down the chief minister who has not been able to control the situation in Manipur, and that didn't happen. So what more can we say? The people are suffering. Even my own village, the neighboring village has been burned down, and there is no electricity for the last so many months. There is the mobile tower in our village has not been functional from the 4th of May. They have no telephone network. I can't talk with my family. So this is the condition. Who is responsible? People in power are responsible for this. And we have been trying to prevent further damage, further conflict, further loss of life through the imposition of president's rule. We have been crying, and it's like nobody is listening, nobody is hearing, and they only wanted this kind of violence to be escalated more and more. So what can we do? What can we say anymore now? Nothing is happening on the ground, and we have been looking into this problem from Delhi, and we have been monitoring, and we have been saying that we need to control this situation. But who listens to us? That is the problem. So we have to ask ourselves also, that our suggestions or thoughts has not been listened by anyone, and it's only the people in power wanted to maintain their own power. They don't want to lose power, and they want to cling onto that power despite the state is raised on the ground. Do they really wanted to rule over the assets that we have seen around? So that's the question that we have to, and I have to ask to the Chief Minister as well as to the central government today. So this is the condition that we are in desperate. Nobody listens to, nobody, it's only about blame game. Nothing about, forging some kind of, convergence on peace building and others. And after almost 3 months, the cookies have also hardened their stand that, without a separate state, they are not going to talk about peace in Manipur. And the Chief Minister reacted to that and saying, even till the last blood of, his, life, he will protect the integrity of the state. That is the situation we are in right now.
Okay, just let me play out one graphic also. The CBI investigation has been ordered. CBI takes over that investigation. CBI will be looking into the case of the violence which took place. CBI to probe it. So, through this graphic, we'll show you CBI to probe sexual assault video. Central government orders CBI probe into sexual assault video case. So, this decision has been taken by the government. Center's affidavit filed before SC says 7 accused have been arrested. So, there is a movement. Center to request SC to allow trial to be moved out of the state to Assam. General Meston also joined me.
In fact, it was supposed to be held today, only Kartikeya, and the Chief Justice was told, but he's not keeping well. This is what we have been informed.
Oh yes, so Friday is always an important day. Weekends are important, because that's where then, or you expect the cases to go to the then they are filed on Monday. General Meston, your first response on the violence in Moreh. Entire mob took over the town. We can have different views, who started it, who did it, but as if it was clear that no hard force came into operation to prevent them from burning public infrastructure. And every time it happens, you embolden people. Would you like to agree or you disagree?
Yeah, Karthik, I definitely agree. Things have actually been going out of control since the time it has started. Can you hear me?
Oh yes, absolutely, sir. Please go ahead. You're on air.
Yeah, because I think I'm not coming on the video. So
no. Obviously, we are showing that graphic also. You will come on, sir.
Okay, fine. Yeah, so issue is whatever has happened. Firstly, the question is why it is happening. Why it is being allowed to happen. These are the questions. Who's controlling it? Who's leading it? Those are not the issues. And I think Professor Biswas has done a very good analysis that, a lot of things have been just happening and the blame game continues and nothing is happening. Not today. We have been talking incidentally for more than 2 months. What has changed? Violence continues unabated. Ethnicity divide has been deep-rooted. Political infrastructure and the police has failed miserably. And we expect the armed forces, to do something at this stage because our duty is something different. And nevertheless, army has been deployed there. The Assam Rifles is there. The whole point is, are we also being allowed to function? If the women stop us, how can we function? The Indian Army was constrained to release 11 top terrorists who had killed the Jawans of the Indian Army a few years back. So this is what is going on. So it is actually the situation is totally out of control in all respects. And therefore, violence continues unabated. You can burn any village. But why no effort is being to stop it? And I today would like to give some very, very clear-cut directions or not directions. I want to give directions, some suggestions. Now, keeping certain ground factors in mind. The first ground factor is the police and the political administration has totally failed. No denial by anyone in this country. Number two, the differences between the two ethnicities, which were on the marginal lines way back, people were existing in co-harmony. Some political vested interests have divided these two ethnicities so badly that today, and I have been reiterating it earlier also, that for them to now come on a common platform, on a adjustment mode, now seems very, very difficult. There is deep mistrust, deep hatred. It is more than what even I saw in Rwanda in the ethnicity divide between the Hutus and Tutsis. Okay, and I have seen the similar kind of things even in Afghanistan, but I think not. This is crossed all limits, all boundaries. It has become deep rooted. We can rape women, we can kill them, we can kill pregnant women. We have done so many wrong things, and we are in question today as a society. And who's done it? The people. And absolutely true, Professor Biswas also highlighted, and I think you also highlighted, no mob ever can just surface overnight. It is a deliberately planned operation. People have been used for vested interest, misguided because of their some vested interest. And we all know what are the vested interests. So these are the ground realities.
The worst part is that Manipur is pivot to the Act East policy.
No, I would like to draw your attention, General Mr. and Brijesh here, and that is one question, that is one aspect which I discussed yesterday, and that is one aspect which has been a leitmotif for regular occurrences, but nothing seems to have done about it. It is the role of Meera Paibis, and yesterday we also came to know that some Cookie Women organization also blocked the combing operation which has been going on. This is the first time their name has come, but Meera, there have been several such incidents. One incident which you have picked up. How does army deal with it? And has that, I mean, because you're more connected than most of us are here, sir. And what is the way forward then, sir?
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm coming to the way forward. See, now the women from the other ethnicity has also exactly done copy and paste, and this is exactly now what
they correct. Yes. Yes.
Now, what is the role of the army and what is the way forward? See, army can operate, firstly, why was this situation created? That means army is only supposed to clean the mess? No, that is not duty. Our primary duty is to ward off internal threat and external aggression, and therefore maintain peace along the borders of India. And for the Indian army, the priority is the northern borders with China and the western borders with Afghanistan. The BSF is deployed in wholly and solely in the area of manning the Indo-Bangladesh border, and therefore the roles have been well defined. So army's role has to be understood. Army is not supposed to be, firstly, this is not a counter-insurgency situation. This is just a political situation in which it is allowed to, continue or proliferate because of the failure of the police machinery totally. Now, should we start getting involved? Now, obviously, how to get involved? Firstly is the role of the central government, and secondly is, therefore, the army will be playing accordingly, according to that.
Just interrupt you for a minute, sir. Geeta Rani, just for a minute, sir. I'm sorry. Geeta Rani ji also joins us. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Advocate, Manipur High Court. A very warm welcome in our show. Today we have the ground report from Moreh, and that's what we were discussing with General Mester and Professor Prasannajeet. A minute, then I have to play out one ground report. Your first thoughts on the violence which has happened in Moreh, in a huge area. Can you unmute yourself, Geeta Rani ji?
Yeah. Thank you for having me in the show, Kartikeya. Actually, before saying anything, I would like to appreciate your show for this relentless, unbiased report on what's happening in the ground. So, as regards to what happened in Moreh, it's really unfortunate because this kind of violence happened in the early days, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. But it had stopped in between, except for some, in the border area, we saw some firing between the village defense force or, like the security forces. But firing, this arson work and destroying of houses had stopped actually. But this suddenly started in Moreh, and from the ground report which I was listening to, it seems the people were instigated. They heard that their communities were being, persecuted in Sisipur, Kangpokpi, and Imphal, which did not happen. And also they were instigated by the video. So clearly, the people are getting provoked by certain things, and this seemed to be a planned effort to, keep the violence continuing for certain vested interest. And you had mentioned about outside forces. I would say, yes, there are outside forces at work here. First outside force, I would say two factors are there regarding outside forces. One is illegal immigrants. People like to deny that there are no illegal immigrants, which I think by now it has been debunked. On July 22nd and 23rd, we saw there were recorded entry of 718 illegal immigrants. 2 days In 2 days, 718 entries. And before the crisis, a few months before the crisis, there was a committee formed to actually check whether there were illegal immigrants in Chorchandpur. And within few days, the committee found there were more than 2,000 people, illegal immigrants. And they were rounded up and they're now in the state jail, in detention. So after that, apparently for vested interest, this committee stopped the inquiry. This should be continued. Actually, why? Because there should be clarity between illegal immigrants and the original Kukis who were settling natives of Manipur since hundreds of years. They have settled there. Their voices should be heard. But right now, the demands of the Kukis are apparently, centering towards the demands of the illegal immigrants or those coming from outside. Because those who are settled from long back in Manipur, they understand Manipur. Like they have been living with other communities in peace.
Okay.
I believe their voices are being silenced. They are not being heard. Like, for example, Madam Gangte, she had voiced negotiation and, peace would be brought. Next day, her voices could not be heard. She's not appearing in any of the shows. Likewise, I have friends. When I contact them personally, they are for peace. They said, why all this fighting? What's the use? This is not, supported by us. But they don't come out into open and say it, apparently out of fear, because the narrative has been stolen by the militants. And it can be seen, in the videos, the militants are in total control of the situation, especially in Sisipur we see. So this,
Geeta Rani ji, this is one question both me and Brijesh discussed. This sort of paramilitarization of women which had taken place, on which General Meston was talking about, and it's just so strange that they are at the forefront. They are subject of sexual violence, but they represent the cultural pride. And in the end, to borrow a phrase from Professor Prasanajit, they are cannibalized in the process, and in the cycle of violence, women gets cannibalized. Before that, there are three ground reports. One from a hotel where a correspondent has gone, and another is to the forest guest house which has been burnt and widely reported. Let us play out these three ground reports for our esteemed guests so that they also get to see a number of reports we are doing from inside Manipur.
सामने एक ये KDSS होटल है और इस होटल के अंदर भी यहाँ पर जमकर आगजनी की गई है। मोरे बाजार यहाँ पर साफ तौर पर लिखा हुआ देखा जा सकता है। जो इलाका है दरअसल ये मोरे बाजार का इलाका है और इस बाजार के अंदर जितनी दुकानें थीं, जितने घर थे, जितने होटल्स थे, इसके अलावा जितने हॉस्पिटल्स थे, सभी को जमकर आग के हवाले किया गया, जमकर उत्पात मचाया गया और यहाँ पर जमकर लूटपाट तक की गई। ठीक सामने एक और होटल मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन आपको दिखाएं, ये देखिए JM होटल है ठीक सामने ये पेड़ के पीछे, और इस होटल के अंदर देखिए किस तरीके से उस होटल को भी आग के हवाले यहाँ पर किया गया है। जाहिर सी बात है जो लोग इस वक्त यहाँ रहे होंगे किसी तरीके से अपनी जान बचाकर यहाँ से भागे होंगे, क्योंकि उत्पात जो उपद्रवी थे उन्होंने अचानक से इस पूरे इलाके पर अटैक किया। जब पुलिस पहुंची तब तक काफी देर हो चुकी थी और इस पूरे इलाके में देखिए किस तरीके से इस पूरे इलाके को आग के हवाले किया जा चुका था। तो ये तस्वीरें अपने आप में बताने के लिए काफी कि आखिरकार जो इस वक्त मणिपुर के हालात हैं वो बेहद भयावह हो चुके हैं, बेहद चिंताजनक हो चुके हैं। कल सुबह 9 बजे से ठीक पहले तक ये जगह दरअसल एलोरा होटल का हिस्सा हुआ करता था, उसका कंपाउंड हुआ करता था। लेकिन अब जरा देखिए मोरे इलाके का सबसे शानदार जो होटल था अब वो राख के ढेर में तब्दील हो चुका है। चारों तरफ आपको सामान जला हुआ, बिखरा हुआ, टूटा हुआ दिखाई देगा। ठीक सामने देखिए इमारत भी जलकर राख हो चुकी है। ये देखिए ये पूरा स्विमिंग पूल का कैंपस था, कंपाउंड था, लेकिन अब ये भी पूरे तरीके से जला दिया गया है। और ये देखिए ये स्विमिंग पूल है और ये इसके आसपास के जितने भी यहाँ पर ये रूम्स बने हुए थे या फिर कहें जो कंपाउंड है, इस कंपाउंड को भी जलाकर यहाँ पर राख कर दिया गया है। व्हीकल यहाँ पर खड़ा हुआ था, इसमें भी जमकर तोड़फोड़ की गई। ये देखिए अभी भी आग यहाँ पर सुलगती हुई साफ तौर पर देखी जा सकती है। मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित कुमार को आपको दिखाएं, ये देखिए अभी भी इस कमरे के अंदर से ही यहाँ पर साफ तौर पर आग सुलगते हुए देखी जा सकती है। इसको पूरे तरीके से तहस नहस कर दिया गया, आग के ढेर में तब्दील कर दिया गया। उसके ठीक आगे एक और यहाँ पर रूम बना हुआ था जो कि ठीक स्विमिंग पूल के सामने था, इस रूम को भी आग के हवाले यहाँ पर किया गया है। ये जो उत्पात मचा है ये दरअसल मुट्ठी भर लोगों का काम नहीं, बल्कि इसके पीछे बताया जाता है कि सैकड़ों उपद्रवी एक साथ इस इलाके के ऊपर धावा बोलते हैं और उसके बाद जितने भी घर, आप जितनी भी इमारतें, जितने भी होटल, दुकानें आप यहां देख रहे हैं, सभी को यहां पर राख के हवाले कर दिया गया, सभी में जमकर तोड़फोड़ की गई और उसके बाद यहां पर बताया जा रहा है कि लूटपाट भी की गई है। जितने भी गवर्नमेंट ऑफिस थे उनको भी आग के हवाले किया गया और ये फॉरेस्ट गेस्ट हाउस है, ये देखिए इस पर भी यहाँ पर धावा बोला गया, इसमें भी जमकर उत्पात मचाया गया और आगजनी यहाँ पर की गई है। यहाँ पर असम राइफल्स के जवान बैठे हुए साफ तौर पर देखे जा सकते हैं। ये तस्वीरें आप देखिए किस तरीके से इस फॉरेस्ट गेस्ट हाउस में भी यहाँ पर जमकर तोड़फोड़ की गई है, यहाँ आगजनी की गई है। तस्वीरें मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित कुमार आपको दिखाते रहें। ये देखिए ये फॉरेस्ट गेस्ट हाउस है और इसमें देखिए किस तरीके से जमकर यहाँ तोड़फोड़ की गई, यहाँ पर बाकायदा लिखा भी हुआ है और ये देखिए पीछे से गोलियां चलने की आवाज भी साफ तौर पर सुनी जा सकती है। अभी भी यहाँ पर हिंसा रुकने का नाम नहीं ले रही है। फॉरेस्ट रेस्ट हाउस मोरेह, और ये देखिए जितने भी कमरे थे सभी को यहाँ पर आग के हवाले किया गया है। हालांकि इस वक्त जो जवान है असम राइफल के, उन्होंने यहाँ पर मोर्चा संभाला हुआ है। किसी भी तरीके से हिंसा पर काबू पाने की यहाँ पर कोशिश की जा रही है और लगातार रुक रुक कर अभी भी फायरिंग की जो आवाजें हैं वो यहाँ पर सुनने के लिए मिल रही हैं। रुक रुक कर अभी भी यहाँ पर फायरिंग हो रही है और ये तस्वीरें आप देखिए, ये अपने आप में बयां करने के लिए काफी है कि किस तरीके से मोरेह के अंदर आगजनी की गई उपद्रवियों के द्वारा, किस तरीके से यहाँ पर आतंक मचाया गया है।
Ma'am, Brijesh, this side, Kartikeya was asking you a question. Basically, I would want to know from you, is that, that one of the major impediment which the Indian army is facing, apart from lifting of ASPA in certain sections of Manipur, is the resistance it is facing from Mira Paibis, ma'am. And there have been several instances, situation came to a level where I think perhaps for the first time I saw Spear Corps releasing a visual saying that, explaining the entire situation in video and showing us the visuals of how, 11 terrorists they had to let go of 11 people, 11 terrorists because, a large number of women had gathered and they didn't allow them to take it forward. And if the army would have acted in haste, it could have resulted in several casualties. So army displayed a mature judgment. How do you react to that, ma'am? How?
Yes, I have full sympathy for the army actually, because they have to deal with.
That's to put it very mildly, ma'am.
Yeah, because they have to deal with this kind of situation. It's very difficult, I understand. But the women folk of Northeast, Manipur in particular, they have been always very active. And in their mind, those 11 people were not terrorists. They think those boys are defending them, defending the villages against the Kuki militants. That's their view, which, they feel, they are going to save them. So it's from their view. Actually, I believe that if the army is to work effectively in Manipur, they should gain the trust of the people. This can be done. It's a slow process. Right now, the people, they are not trusting the army, thinking both sides. I can understand both sides are not trusting the army because they think they are siding the other community. It's an allegation from what Meiteis and Kukis. So gaining without having
but
trust.
ma'am, I'm sorry, I just need, I want to make one point, but usually, it is the Meiteis who are not trusting the Assam Rifles. Both sides are trusting Indian Army, but Meiteis are not trusting Assam Rifles, as we have been told in our program, ma'am, several times. Please go ahead.
Yes, certain battalions of Assam Rifles have been alleged to have committed certain activities like favoring the Kukis. Like, their food rations are being found in the camps, in the bunkers of Kukis militants. Or, when on the 3rd May, when Jorshadpur was burning, the Meitei houses were burning, the Assam Rifle people were there apparently as per victims' account, and they did not do anything to prevent this. This kind of activities, news spread, and always the suspicions about armed forces were there from before, especially these Assam Rifles. So this kind of increase the suspicions of people, distrust among the Meitei people against Assam Rifles. It's not for every battalion, but certain battalion is pointed out by the MLAs regarding changing, taking away those battalions from Manipur. So these are specific events which created distrust among the people of Manipur, and this need to be addressed because the army cannot function effectively without the trust of the people. it must be shown to the people that their concerns are addressed, and if there are specific events in which they have complained, they should be addressed, at the soonest. Instead of using this kind of video which you are showing, like, it's showing the Meitei woman in a bad light. No, their intentions are good, but certain events have happened which have led to the distrust of them towards the armed forces, especially, as you say, Assam Rifles. So this can be addressed easily, and actually the CSOs, the politicians, local politicians, they should come out and talk to the Maira Paivis. There is a lack of communication, or rather miscommunication also happening in the ground, because there is a very clear lack of leadership. This has to be addressed from both the local levels also and the central level also. There should be, there is actually checking of every vehicles coming from Imphal to Churachandpur also, coming from Churachandpur also to Imphal. Like, distrust level is that they check every vehicle of the Assam Rifles and armed forces. If there are any, cookie people being transported.
Ma'am, I'll ask you a question, then I'll go to General Master and Professor Prasanjit. I completely understand what you're saying, ma'am, because we have been covering this for more than 3 months now.
Yes.
The level of distrust is very deep, and I completely understand how your psyche works when you are standing in the middle of that violence which is unleashing all around you and not sitting somewhere safe. But the fact is, ma'am, that if this is the situation which goes on, like you said that in their mind those 11 boys are boys who are fighting for their ethnicity and are not terrorists, then the situation becomes all the more murky, ma'am, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I agree that. Actually, immediately, in my belief, peace has to be brought by disarming both sides. This is immediate requirement, and this has to be done from both sides. Kuki militants, they are under SU protection. That's fine, but right now what they are doing is they are violating the terms of SU agreement, because under SU agreement they cannot be roaming around with guns, which they are doing right now. So simultaneously both sides, they should be disarmed, and if this is shown to the people that actions are being taken to disarm both sides, then I'm sure the temper of the people, including the Maira Paivis, will be lessened. Like, peace will return in the mind of the people. Okay, some action is being taken now. Actually, the silence of the central government also has helped in accentuating this problem. People are not happy with the central government. Both parties, political parties, across political parties, central government and opposition also. This issue, actually, there's lack of intention to solve the real issues. It has been politicized, especially with the viral video coming out, at all attention, going towards that. So people are feeling like the real issues are being abandoned. There is no intention to solve it. This should be handled, delicately, and simultaneous disarm of all, armed militants and armed civilians. The 4,000 arms which had been circulating, as said, taken from the police, they should all be taken out. There is no business for civilians to do this. The law and order situation has to be controlled by the state and the central government. So this, if disarmament happens, then the next process of peace can be brought about. Right now, peace cannot be brought in when both sides are armed, distrust level to the height. So this situation has to be immediately, taken into action. Disarming the people, the armed people.
Okay. General Maston, this is one topic other than violence which we have been discussing right from 4th of May till the current date, till today. The fact is that we are talking of disarmament or disarming the people, but one constant narrative has been of the SU groups. And there is an accusations from the other side is that that the SU groups are violating the tripartite agreement. They are roaming free, and they are using the guns which is there. But the statement which has come out from army, the statement which has come out from center, refutes that. It doesn't say that this is the situation. So how does one clarify, sir, that whether the SU groups are violating the tripartite agreement or not? And if they are violating the tripartite agreement, why is there no crackdown?
Yeah, Brijesh, I will answer 2-3 aspects. first you had asked in the last time, what is the way forward? I will spell on that. And now I will even comment on this question. And also a point was raised by one of the panelists that the Indian Army, I think, my job is to clarify. Firstly, this channel is being watched by a large number of people, and any one of us, we give statements, this also has an impact on the minds of the people. A statement was made, the Indian Army is also supposedly taking sides and they have to win the trust and confidence of the people. Now, I think I will make it very, very clear. Indian Army is the finest army in the world in terms of operating in J&K and Manipur and Nagaland and Mizoram. Everywhere we have operated in CI Ops, including in Assam, where the Bodoland problem was there. So Indian Army has got tremendous expertise. But now let me make some facts very clear. Firstly, the Chief of Defence Staff of the Indian Armed Forces had made a very clear-cut statement, which is well known to everyone. This is not a counter-insurgency or counter-terrorism problem as on date. It is a law and order problem, and therefore the law and order is not the responsibility of the army. It is the responsibility of the state police, duly under the Chief Minister of the administration. That I'm making it very clear. And as on date, Manipur has not been declared as a disturbed area in terms of counter-insurgency or counter-terrorism. So Army's role is to just stabilize the situation, not go and do operations against anyone. So that is point one. Point two is coming on to the SU. Again, there are only allegations. If the Indian Army has made a statement, if the government of India has made a statement, there is no other authority better than them to clarify that. Not any individual, a group of individuals, or some people can keep projecting anything. That should be just discarded at face value, because the aim is create rivalry, distrust amongst people, and show the government of India and the Indian Army also in bad light. Third, you had asked about the way forward. Now let me tell you, I had given you certain ground factors. And one of the most important ground factors which now I want to highlight is the deep distrust, to the extent that one particular ethnicity is extremely happy with the present Chief Minister. They love him. The other ethnicity just do not want him. They have been advocating president rule. Therefore, if this is a very good example of trust, lost trust by one ethnicity and solid trust by the other ethnicity. So what is the way out? The way out, the SU group operations or whatever was launched, it had a particular incentive. It was conceived by the Indian Army, and the government of India, both the governments, the present government and the earlier government, have been working on that, and therefore something towards the Hill Autonomous Council was being worked out. And my input says that probably this year in February, this was going to be announced. Something now, it is exactly on the lines of Bodoland Territorial Council, which was signed in February 2003 by the then Deputy Prime Minister of India, Mr. Advani, the state government of Assam, and the Bodoland Tigers, the Bodoland fighting tigers who were part of that tripartite agreement. This kind of an agreement was almost to be signed now, and I think now it is high time. Now President's rule also will be of zero significance at this time when the distrust is solid. Therefore, let us today go on to focus what happened in Bodoland Territorial Council. Let us go ahead with this issue of the Hill Area Autonomous Council, implying demarcate the areas, let the one ethnicity be happy with the present. In this arrangement, the Autonomous Hill Council will continue to be part of Manipur. We are not dividing Manipur, but certain areas of governance, executive, legislative, and the financial powers automatically get transferred to the Hill State Council and let them run it. And this is what the government of India's plan was. This will create peace. This will create harmony. Indian Army cannot go on rampage and start killing people. That is not the role of the army. This is a political solution, and today I, as an army general, am giving a political solution. Next solution is the police has failed the state of Manipur and the people of Manipur. Let us reform, restructure the police. In fact, some stern measures need to be taken. All officers of the men of the police who have not been doing their duties, they need to be sacked irrespective of their ethnicity. Next, criminals. There have been a lot of criminals in this from both ethnicities. immediate task force needs to be set up, identify the criminals with lot of evidence, and then, courts need to be set up on a fast track basis to give exemplary punishment to these people. And fourth, the issue of narco-terrorism. If this is being talked about so much, the center and the state government must take up full, I would say they must go full throttle, stop drug cultivation and identify all people. No drug trade can ever proliferate without the help of the political patronage and without the help of the police and without the help of criminals. Therefore, just ban it. Don't let us not blame any ethnicity. Remove the drug problem once and for all, and this is the way. And many will suffer in this. The politicians will suffer who want the drug trade to proliferate. The police will suffer. The criminals will suffer. So let's take a very hard stand. Let's get it implemented ruthlessly. So these are few of the suggestions of way forward. Otherwise, we will keep talking. Nothing is happening. Violence continues unabated. And let me also tell you today, the entire hill areas, Nagaland, Mizoram, because one has operated in that area, and the hills of Manipur, these will now become counterinsurgency hub. And for the Indian army then to be deployed, it will be at the cost of the national security. Either we fight our own people in these areas or we fight the Chinese and the Pakistanis. So that the country has to prioritize, and therefore politically, this solution has to be thought of and implemented ruthlessly. And not last but not the least, even the Chief Justice of Manipur High Court, he has passed that order. If you read the diktat of the Supreme Court in May, it is very, very clear. They have given very, very clear, and it can be read that whatever his views were, their views were, including the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India, and the judge had just taken over in February, and March he gives an order. So therefore, this also perhaps need to be reviewed by the bench of the Supreme Court, because this has actually been a flashpoint. This has, given the people insecurity, etc. And as it is, a lot of things were there. This has been the spark, and this has, so all these things have to be addressed. The judiciary also has to be think about this order. Let them analyze in detail, because my military knowledge goes, even we have been handling law, I was myself additional appellate authority. To give a judgment on any case, you have to have a lot of time. You have to do a lot of discussion.
True, very true, sir.
Yeah.
Very detailed and very well put, General Meston. It's always a pleasure to have you, because you have been there and you have served in the capacity. You have faced what is going on, and that gives you a unique perspective to analyze the situation both from the humane as well as the military point of view. Professor Prasenjit, as the General Meston was putting out, do you foresee a situation where the priorities of the army have to be changed, in the sense that now it is spreading out to other northeastern state as well? So if the crackdown on disarming and other things are not done, do you see it spreading to other parts and getting politicized to a level where instead of fighting Chinese, we are fighting, as General Meston very rightly put, we'll be fighting our own men?
Yes, we have these legitimate apprehensions of these being spreading in a certain way in certain other locations as well. But so far, Nagaland and Mizoram are peaceful, Meghalaya is peaceful, Arunachal Pradesh is peaceful from the internal disturbances. Now, this is a Manipur-specific disturbance, and it is impacting a part of Assam and a part of Mizoram. Let's not exaggerate it much, but we should nip it in the bud, as General Meston has talked about the political solution that is possible in terms of providing autonomous governance. Now, Home Ministry has talked about the autonomous governance and autonomy council day before yesterday, but it was again opposed from one group saying that it should be extended even to them. Now this kind of a competitive federalism that is going on at the political level is something that does not help the peace process. No one is ready to accede to the other side. Now look at the historical division. The hill tribes and the hill land are protected under Article 371C. And whatever is stated in Article 371C, Hill Area Committee, that committee is not functioning anymore. So it's a kind of a constitutional vacuum or a constitutional void in which we are functioning. Now, security forces can only complement and supplement, especially the central security forces. They can complement and supplement the situation, provided the local state government and the local populace are able to cooperate and collaborate with this, and it should be both-sided. Central security forces should not be looked upon as a kind of colonial force, as it is looked upon in the context of Northeast India. So that image has to be totally changed, and central security forces have to organize itself from the ground, and it has to create a network whereby popular sentiments, various people who are part of the security arrangement, and then the people who go into action are well coordinated. But this requires a very special kind of a supervision. I hope that central security forces will be able to manage this. I have a strong hope about it. And therefore, I believe that the lost neutrality and impartiality can be restored in the case of Manipur, and a political solution can be worked out. Now, I want to shift to the other issue, which I think as the root cause of snowballing effect, which makes snowballing effects of this ethnic conflict. It is this process of othering and stereotyping. Refugees are confused as illegal immigrants all the time. Now, people who have taken shelter because of humanitarian crisis, absolutely cautious about it. The second question is about this poppy cultivation, narco-terrorism. It should not be identified with any community. It's not a problem of a community, but it's a problem of a different kind. So that kind of an objective understanding needs to be evolved without being partisan, without speaking just for one's own community. One has to look at the larger interest of the state of the Manipur, even the interest of the other community. If we are not able to speak for the other community, if we are not able to live with the other faith, if we are not able to accept the other people, it's very difficult to live in India, because India is a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religion, all kinds of multiplicity and plurality is part of the Indian society. Only when we accept the other, we have strong bonding and unity, and that is the unity in diversity. Manipur has to be brought back to a kind of a lesson of unity in diversity, and that has to start with the majority community, and then it has to be taken to the hills as well. So unless we are able to coordinate and collaborate in this manner, that we are able to bring both the sides together with the help of a neutral central force and other central agencies, nothing is going to change in Manipur. Even the discussions that we had day before yesterday hasn't yielded much of a result. So we have to relook at 371C. We need to implement 371C in case of hill states, hill areas of Manipur, and we also should go for a justified, equitable distribution of resources and power. The asymmetry that is there between 20, 40 MLA number, distribution of funds, and all these asymmetries that are going on for a while in the state of Manipur, that has resulted into this complete chaos and mess, needs to be really relooked, resupervised by the center, which is like the guardian here. And that role center has to play. That will be urgently necessary. Then the small incidents on the ground will not make much difference. People will reconcile between them, provided center comes and intervenes in the right way. I think this is how we should look forward for a good solution. Yeah.
Well, absolutely, sir. And I would like to show our viewers that our correspondent, TV9 Bharatvarsh correspondent Jitender Sharma, who is in Manipur for the last 4-5 days and bringing out all the gory details and you know what is exactly happening on the ground, the kind of violence that has engulfed. He has travelled to Imphal, Churachandpur. Now he is currently in the Moreh, and I would like to show our viewers the ground report which he has filed from Moreh, one more ground report, and then we will resume the discussion.
हम इस वक्त मणिपुर के मोरे में मौजूद हैं और देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ अभी भी हिंसा जारी है। चारों तरफ आपको यहाँ पर आगजनी के निशान साफ तौर पर दिखाई देंगे। जगह जगह आपको यहाँ पर जो असम राइफल्स हैं उसके जवानों की तैनाती भी साफ तौर पर दिखाई देगी। मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित आपको तस्वीरें दिखाते रहें। ये देखिए किस तरीके से ये तमाम जितनी भी दुकानें थी सभी को जलाकर राख कर दिया गया। ये ट्रेड सेंटर है मोरे का, मणिपुर का, और इसमें भी जमकर आगजनी की गई है। और ये मार्केट देखिए, इस पूरी मार्केट को यहाँ पर जलाया गया। ठीक सामने एक होटल है, उस होटल को भी आग के हवाले कर दिया गया। और जितना भी आपको यहाँ पर, चाहे वो घर हो, दुकान हो, होटल हो, जो भी आपको यहाँ पर इमारत दिखेगी, सभी इमारतों के अंदर जमकर आगजनी और लूटपाट यहाँ पर उपद्रवियों के द्वारा की गई है। ये दरअसल कुकी डोमिनेटेड इलाका है और कल यहाँ पर जमकर ना सिर्फ फायरिंग की गई बल्कि आगजनी भी की गई। मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन तस्वीरें सामने की आपको दिखाएं। ये देखिए किस तरीके से अभी भी यहाँ पर जो असम राइफल्स के जवान हैं वो यहाँ चारों तरफ आपको तैनात दिखाई देंगे। अभी भी रुक रुक कर फायरिंग की जो आवाज है वो इस इलाके से आ रही है। कुछ देर पहले खुद हमारे कैमरे पर ये फायरिंग की आवाज यहाँ पर कैद हुई है। और ठीक सामने ये देखिए, दोनों तरफ आप मेरे देखेंगे, दाएं और बाएं दोनों तरफ जहां भी आप देखेंगे आपको चारों तरफ यहाँ पर जले का निशान साफ तौर पर दिखाई देगा। सभी इमारतों को यहाँ पर आग के हवाले किया गया है। देखिए सड़कों के ऊपर सामान को यहाँ पर गिराकर आग लगाई गई है। जो लोग इस वक्त यहाँ रहे होंगे, सोचिए उस वक्त का दृश्य कैसा रहा होगा, तस्वीरें कैसी रही होंगी, कैसे उन्होंने अपनी जान बचाकर यहाँ से भागे होंगे। ये ठीक सामने एक लॉज है, मेरे बाएं तरफ मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन आपको दिखाएं। देखिए दाएं तरफ एक लॉज है, इस लॉज को भी आग के हवाले किया गया। जितने भी घर आप यहाँ पर देखेंगे सभी को, ठीक मेरे बाएं तरफ मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन तस्वीरें दिखाएं। ये देखिए ठीक मेरे बाएं तरफ भी इसी तरीके के हालात यहाँ पर बने हुए हैं। साथ ही ये देखिए, गाड़ी से उतर के हम आपको दिखाने की कोशिश करेंगे तस्वीरों को। ये देखिए चारों तरफ जहां भी कैमरा जाएगा, जहां भी आप देखेंगे, आपको चारों तरफ यहाँ पर तबाही के निशान, जले हुए मकान, जली हुई दुकानें साफ तौर पर यहाँ पर दिखाई देंगी। लगातार देखिए गश्त भी यहाँ पर की जा रही है असम राइफल्स के जवानों के द्वारा, रुक रुक कर, क्योंकि अभी भी यहाँ पर फायरिंग हो रही है। और असम राइफल के जो जवान हैं मुस्तैदी के साथ यहाँ पर तैनात हैं इस पूरे इलाके के अंदर। कल सुबह से लगातार यहाँ पर जो हिंसा है वो भड़की हुई है, जो तनावपूर्ण यहाँ का माहौल पूरे तरीके से बना हुआ है। ये देखिए ठीक सामने किस तरीके से इस इलाके को भी, इन घरों को भी, सभी को जलाकर यहाँ पर राख किया गया है। ये देखिए कुछ मशीनें यहाँ पर रखी हैं, जो सिलाई मशीन होती हैं वो भी आपको जली हुई दिखाई देंगी। अलमारियां यहाँ पर जली हुई दिखाई देंगी। और चारों तरफ जहां भी आपकी यहाँ पर नजर घूमेगी, जहां भी हम कैमरा घुमाने की कोशिश करेंगे, सिर्फ एक ही तस्वीर आपको देखेगी, वो भी वही जले हुए मकान, वही जली हुई दुकानें, वही जला हुआ सामान, सड़कों के ऊपर बिखेर कर सामान को जलाया गया, बाहर खींच कर लाया गया। और उसके बाद देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर तबाही और इसके अलावा यहाँ पर लूटपाट और आगजनी की गई है।
This was the ground report which has been sent by our correspondent from Moreh, and this shows the kind of destruction that has taken place. And I completely agree with my correspondent, you know, when he says the line that, you know, that this the things or the situation on the road is so scary to imagine, you know, how it would have happened when people were there and how they would have forced to flee their homes, and you know, all of those homes, houses, cars, everything being vandalized or burned, charred. All, I mean, you know, it's scary to look at those visuals. I've also been joined by Yashovardhan Azad, former Special Director, Intelligence Bureau, and someone who knows this situation. Yashovardhan ji, welcome to News9 Live. Sir, you know, there has been, as I asked General Meston also, you know, there has been another recurring theme, you know, a leitmotif of the discussion right from word go is that people have been talking about the Sioux group and how, you know, the one ethnicity always says that this Sioux group is violating the tripartite agreement and they are roaming around with guns and all. Whereas, you know, whenever the audit which was displayed by the army as well as by the central forces and all, they have said that nothing of this sort is happening. You know, if there is a violation, why isn't there a crackdown? And if there is no violation, why isn't the government setting the record straight?
Yeah, I think, you know, I had talked about this even earlier on your channel, that, you know, I think 2,200 cadres in those 18 camps. One of the most important things when we talk about weapons is to check and verify from those camps. And in fact, there should be a general statement coming out from the authorities, from the security advisors, because ultimately we are talking about a completely militarized zone here, where 3,000 weapons are missing, and about the various underground groups which have been able to you know, use the weapons. So yes, I think it's a very, very important part that we need to look into. And I think this is the first, if you're trying to bring back normalcy This is the kind of things you have to look into. First is to completely, dry up the area of these weapons which are floating around here and there. And the Sioux group is a very, very critical, because mind you, there are 25 of them, 18 plus 7. And I agree with you that this is a very, very important part.
General Meston, yesterday we were showing a ground report which has been filed by a reporter there on the ground. When he was talking to a group of Kuki vigilantes, vigilantes from the Kuki ethnicity, and they were saying that the entire road was barricaded, the road was dug up to ensure that that there is no free flow of movement, as vehicular movement, as far as that area is concerned. And one of the person who was interviewed, the couple of them in fact, sir, went on to say that they allow only Indian Army, Assam Rifles, journalists and only bona fide villagers who are around. Now, what does this make? How can they allow Indian Army and Assam Rifles to travel, and should have been the other way around? First. And second, what can the army do? There must be the army must be talking about, because something which has reached us is something which the army must have been facing right from the word go. What can the army do, sir, in this scenario where this kind of situation exists, sir? Where they are the one who's being allowed rather than the other way around, sir?
As on date, you have highlighted the current situation. Yes, and firstly, putting out these barricades, and the Kuki community is not doing it. See, both sides it has been done. And, obviously, why it is being done? When there is distrust with the administration, distrust with the local police forces, they have failed. So when there is distrust, so the basic sense of any human being is self-security, and therefore to protect the villages of the hamlet, they are forming this kind of a thing because they do not trust the police force at all. Now, army cannot be directly involved in all this because this is not a charter. That is firstly very, very clear. Till the time the central government does not give orders and declare the area as, counter-insurgency area, and then our role changes. Right now, we are just suppressing, just assisting. That is our role. And yes, now they are allowing the army, because today what is happening, that they are checking army. I agree, it should be vice versa, but the mistrust is so much that today vehicle can be painted in an army vehicle, can be any civil vehicle can be painted into army. They can also, anyone can be in any dress. This is also happening, and it happens. I have seen in Afghanistan how the terrorists would even dress up as US soldiers, come in vehicles and come as suicide bombers, and even the Americans suffered there. So this is highly possible, and therefore they are not doing the check. Otherwise, yes, it is the duty of the, not the army, it is the duty of the police. Police has failed in totality. So it's a very critical situation, and the way we have just analyzed, I think now it is high time. This debate, you are really doing a wonderful job since day one. But what is happening on ground? Things continue unabated. There is no stoppage. And even today I was reading the newspaper reports of various newspapers. Again, it is blame on the Manipur police. Some commandos have gone there to Moreh and want to, clean up one ethnicity. No one knows what is the truth behind all this. Okay, so many reports are this thing. So the center has to not take some firm stand, firm decisions, which I just highlighted. Otherwise, I see, it is happening in Moreh, the border area. Tomorrow it will spill over. The spillover will also come from the other side. Army's role is exactly, I told you, to fight the northern borders and this. Incidentally, we have some military stations, and Imphal happens to be one of the military stations where our division headquarters is located. That is the only this thing. We are just located, like today we have in Delhi. We are not here to start, taking care of Delhi or any place, Secunderabad or Pune. We have got a roles from hinterland. We are mobilized and we move to the concerned border and go and do our job there. That is our job. The army's role has to be understood. A lot of people here have been confusing. I was hearing some of them. The army has to win the trust. This is not a role. Army has operated in insurgency areas and we have done it. The same areas of Nagaland and Manipur, not the same areas. I was posted in Nagaland and Manipur. My career started here way back in '82. It was an insurgency prone area. We had a different role. But that time the things with China were not so bad. Today the things with China are so bad. Either we deploy our armed forces along the China border or we deploy them to fight against our own people at the cost of national security. That the country has to prioritize, and I'm quite sure that is how the CD has stated very clearly. It is not a counter-insurgency problem. It is a law and order problem. It is the responsibility of the state with its setup, which is the police, to resolve it. And they seem to be now going out of hand. They have not been able to resolve since 2 months. Violence continues unabated. So the center has to step in and take appropriate measures. Otherwise, Indian Army per se will get sucked in here, and God forbid tomorrow there is a deployment ordered because of some problem in the Chinese border. From where we'll get the forces? Our forces are limited. So this the central government has to weigh. Otherwise, yes, the army can do it. Tomorrow, if the area is declared as disturbed with counter-insurgency, we can certainly do it. But not at this present juncture, because having been in the military operations directorate and knowing so much, we have some limited ceiling of force. We cannot suddenly start raising new forces and deploy them all over. So whatever forces we have within those existing resources, we have to live and survive and fight the Chinese / Pakistan, which is our main enemy. Our people are not our enemy. So the internal forces, the internal administration, the state has to do it, and if they have failed, so we have to do a security analysis in terms of everything and take a call, which I just recommended in my last statement. I gave you very, very firm recommendations.
Absolutely.
And I think I've been very candid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You wanted to respond, Mr. Yashwardhan?
Yes, certainly. First of all, bringing in AFSPA would be a retrograde step. I'm totally against it. And I agree with the general, army should be withdrawn from Manipur. After all, when they were, sometime back only, when the women surrounded them, about 15 militants were let go. Also, the armory of Assam Rifles was also looted. So I think army does not have a role and they should be removed from there. Number one. Number two, I think, it's not a military problem in Manipur.
Yes.
It's a great ethnic divide which needs to be filled. These militarized zones have been created. Let me also remind you, Brijesh, that there is a tradition also in Manipur from the beginning of village being protected by some of their own men. So this is just an advanced version where you have created the militarized zones and they're allowing the Assam Rifles and the army to pass by. So if at all the talks get underway, if the peace talks, if on the ground zero, when your guys are even asking them, they are saying that we are keeping these militarized zones and these protected zones because of the reaction from the other side, because of the violence which was unleashed. So it is a kind of a counterprotective measure which they are using in these places. So as I had suggested earlier, unless you break the impasse, and the impasse can be broken only when the people believe that the new administration which has come in will be able to look at the causes and the grievances of both. If you remove, for example, the present political dispensation, bring in a president's rule, get a governor who's been from one of the cadres, some of the very, very seasoned men have performed in Manipur, and they will respond to the call of the cadre. Make one of them as the governor, have 3 advisors, one from the defense, one from the IAS, one from the IPS, and also one as an economic advisor. Then there will be a sense that yes, the government means business, and then you can also go very strong against the women who are by using a women force for these law and order situations. So the situation cannot be tackled by the army now. There has to be a sense of what you call a balance amongst the people, which needs to be done immediately. Otherwise, this kind of an impasse seems to continue.
Madam Geeta Rani ji, I just want to understand, as Yashwardhan ji told us about, how he thinks a situation can move forward, and one point which, there cannot be any disagreement is breaking the impasse. How do you think we move forward, ma'am? How does this impasse been broken? Because, we have seen how the situation has been hardened by both sides, from the Kuki as well as Maitis, but on every passing day. it is getting hardened, and now from a separate administration, it has come to a separate state demand now. So how do you think this impasse is going to be broken, ma'am?
Yes. Before answering that, I want to clarify, Major General, that I have the Meitei communities and me in particular have the utmost respect for Indian Army. Even my own nephew is in the Army. So the distrust I was mentioning was regarding specific episodes. So this needs to be looked into. Now coming back to your question, yes, the stance of both sides seems to have hardened. The demand for ST status by Meiteis have led to counter demand of a separate state by the other community, which is like totally imbalanced. So there are certain factors, other factors apart from ST demand at work here. We need to examine those. What are the genuine demands of the other community? For Manipuri, for Meiteis, we know by now that they have actually genuine issues of having to stay within the 6% of the landmass. They cannot have rights over the other remaining 90% of the landmass. This is a genuine issue. And we have other complaints about, illegal immigrants coming in and disturbing the structure of the society. And then we also have issues about, poppy plantation, which is spoiling the society, very fabric of society. So these issues from the Meitei side also need to be addressed, and from the other community also, we need to gather what are the genuine problems. If they have any issues about, lack of development in the hills, we need to find out why the 6 autonomous hill council already in existence under this, Article 371C, why they are not functioning. If they want more power to be given to them to be more effective, that can be discussed over the table. So this is not happening. These violences are not in proportionate to what the Meiteis are demanding. So I sincerely believe there are outer forces at work here. And I would like to bring your attention to a report here, regarding the interference by the European, Parliament and the Western countries. Last year in Afghanistan, the poppy plantation was decided by the Taliban government to be stopped. And there were actually restrictions, concerns from the Western countries that this should not be stopped. And there are reports saying that 80% of the world's heroin was sent by Afghanistan, out of which 95% of it goes to European Union. Now, European countries are concerned that instead of heroin, if their people started, consuming fentanyl, which is supposed to be 50% more stronger than heroin, this entire, they will have a very, worse crisis, human crisis over there, drug crisis will be there. So this concern was there, and they actually opposed Taliban's, restrictions on poppy plantation, the stoppage of poppy plantation. I am thinking their interference is related to the poppy plantation, issues related to this Manipur crisis and the state government's effort to stop this. I'm not against any community here. I'm sure not only the Kuki populations is involved in this poppy plantation, and in the reports, the first community involved in this is shown to be the Muslims. Second comes the Kuki, and then the Meiteis are also involved. This issue of drug cartel, poppy plantation, heroin, trafficking and all this needs to be settled if peace has to come to Manipur. Why the other community is resisting this? This we need to find out. If there are genuine issues faced by the villagers using this, using poppy plantation as their livelihood, this need to be settled. Alternative methods of earning money has to be provided by the state government, and the CSOs has a role in this also. So genuine issues of both sides, everything has to be kept in open and negotiated. This is how this is what I think. And as I said before peace talk, both sides have to be disarmed. If the Sioux militants' weapons are there in the stock as recorded as per the statement released by the military and central government, then where are the arms coming from? This is not a law and order issue alone. Of course, law and order failure is also there. But arms are being, imported from outside, smuggled from outside. This issue has to be stopped also, and some are, reportedly found out by the Assam Rifles and detected, and there was report about loads of, truckloads of arms and ammunitions coming from outside. How many would have been gone undetected? Because the militants, if their weapons are inside locked up, from where they are getting their arms and ammunitions? Because daily firing is going on. And these are not simple weapons. These are AK-47. There are bombs being used, drones being used. All this needs to be urgently, addressed. Both sides have to be disarmed, and then only the peace talk will succeed.
And what is happening in Manipur today found its echo in the Parliament. Also on Friday, which is like the 7th day of functioning of Parliament there's been no proper functioning. Because of that, opposition leaders are demanding that the Prime Minister must make a statement, and no business can be taken up before the Prime Minister responds to it, or the antitrust motion which they have moved in both houses is taken up first. The government is saying that the opposition is running away from the debate on over what is happening in the state of Manipur, and this has led to a logjam and waste of at least 6 to 7 working days of Parliament. Let's listen into a couple of sound bites which have come from the Parliament, both from the government side as well as opposition, and then we resume our discussion.
मणिपुर जल रहा है। 85 दिन बाद तो इन लोगों ने संज्ञान लिया है मणिपुर का। ये लोग क्या मणिपुर की बात करते हैं? और एक सीबीआई की जांच सौंपकर ये लोग कह रहे हैं हमने मणिपुर में सब कुछ हल कर दिया। आज भी लाखों लोग बेघर हैं, हजारों लोगों को जान माल का नुकसान हुआ है, कितने लोग मौत के घाट उतार दिए गए, उस पर कोई कार्रवाई नहीं। और मुख्यमंत्री मणिपुर ने खुद ये बात कही थी कि एक वारदात है जो जिसका वीडियो सामने आया, ऐसी तो कई सैकड़ों वारदात हमारे यहाँ हो गई, तो उन पे कब जांच होगी? उसका न्याय कब मिलेगा लोगों को?
संसद में सरकार कहने को तैयार थी, गृह मंत्री ये तैयार थे, रक्षा मंत्री ने कहा, चिट्ठी भी लिखी फिर भी नहीं सुना। काले कपड़े उजले कपड़े पहन के आ रहे हैं वो। तब तक सुप्रीम कोर्ट की तारीख आ गई, तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बताया गया कि हम बिल्कुल प्रामाणिक रूप से अनुसंधान कर रहे हैं, दोषी को पकड़ लिया है और इस मामले की हम ट्रायल करा के सजा दिलवाना चाहते हैं, लेकिन उचित होगा इस ट्रायल को मणिपुर के बाहर किया जाए। तो ये तो हमारी सरकार की प्रतिबद्धता का परिचय है कि किस प्रभावी रूप से हम पूरे मणिपुर की जांच और वहां शांति के लिए प्रयासरत हैं।
उनको ये भी बताया गया कि हालात वहां सामान्य हो रहे हैं, जो कुकी और जो मैतेई लोग थे जो अपना घर छोड़ के चले गए थे, अब वो लोग वापस आ रहे हैं।
बिल्कुल, देखिए एक बात समझिए, कुकी और मैतेई के बीच का तनाव कोई आज का तो नहीं है ना, इसका एक ऐतिहासिक संदर्भ है। इसके बावजूद गृह मंत्री गए कि नहीं, 3.5 दिन रहे कि नहीं, दोनों समुदाय के लोगों से बात किया कि नहीं, सिविल सोसाइटी से बात किया कि नहीं, ये सब आप देख चुके हैं। इसके बावजूद कांग्रेस पार्टी से कम से हमको ये उम्मीद नहीं थी। और आज मैं बहुत पीड़ा के साथ एक बात कहना चाहूंगा, वो जा रहे हैं जाएं, भारत में 2 चीजों पर कोई पाबंदी नहीं है, किसी को कोई आरोप लगा के एब्यूज करने की, और दूसरा कहीं भी जाके रायता फैलाने की। इस पर तो कोई पाबंदी नहीं है ना, लेकिन थोड़ा शांति की तो बात करें ना।
हमारी अगर ये डिमांड थी कि देश का मुखिया सदन में आए और अपना वक्तव्य दे, 50 कदम दूर तो वक्तव्य दे रहे हैं पार्लियामेंट से, पार्लियामेंट के अंदर आके अगर वही बात कह देते तो डिस्कशन शुरू हो जाता और सब लोग स्मूथली डिस्कस करते। हमें मालूम है मणिपुर से जितना दर्द हमें है उतना दर्द हमारे बीजेपी के साथियों को भी होगा, लेकिन ये एक दूसरे के सेपरेशन क्यों, ये जिद क्यों पकड़ ली कि नहीं प्रधानमंत्री नहीं बोलेंगे? ये भी कोई जिद की बात है। और उनके पास टाइम है राजस्थान जाने का, उनके पास टाइम है और तमाम काम करने का। देश की बहन बेटियों के जख्म पे मरहम लगाने का टाइम नहीं है। पार्लियामेंट में आके बोल नहीं सकते 2 मिनट के लिए।
These are the visuals of destruction that has taken place in Moreh, which has been brought by, you can see the smoldering over there that has been brought by our correspondent Jitender Sharma from Moreh, Manipur. And these visuals tell the tale of the exact situation which is there in the state of Manipur. Houses being burned, anything and everything that can be brought down has been brought down with fire. I won't be exaggerating if I use this statement. Yashwardhan ji, there is also a political logjam, both in state as well as in parliament. The state, the chief minister has made it very clear yesterday. We discussed it also that till the last drop of his blood in his veins, he will not agree to see to it that in 1 inch of Manipur is taken away. Now the Kuki sides have hardened their stance and it has gone from a separate administration to a separate state. The similar thing is happening in parliament where both the centre and the opposition party are at a fight with each other over the Prime Minister's statement to be made by Prime Minister. Do you think that this political hardening of situations will only make matter worse in Manipur?
Absolutely. I totally agree that there has to be, some come down from both sides because the insistence on PM to speak and the other party, the insistence on PM not to speak. I mean, this should not be the basis of a discussion. I think the debate should start because one of the most important issues today, Brijesh, is that we are having instability in a border state. I mean, with Myanmar alone, as Geeta ji was pointing out, from where we are having the infiltration or the impact of the poppy cultivation is 350 kilometers long. So it is opposition also has a stake in Manipur administration. And as somebody said, the roots of the problem are pretty deep. So you can't just, by a hardening of political stance, you're just making it worse. The other thing which I want to say is that, there are legitimate grievances on the side of the Maitis, there's no doubt about it. And there are legitimate grievances on the Kuki side too. Kukis are saying that there's nothing worth, a good establishment is there in the hills as it is, everything is in the valley. And also that the transfer of funds should be in a direct manner. 370C is not functioning. If it's not functioning, what is the reason? There should be something done about it. So, that you can have actually a roadmap, Brijesh, as to what should be done or what should be told to both the sides, which is not happening because of this political stance. Now, the other thing is that the chief minister being here, I mean, whether good or bad, it's giving a signal that there is a kind of a total, rigidity on the point of removing him. Why? I mean, if a state has such an internal strife, then the center has to step in. And the center can do with the president's rule for 2 years. Today Manipur does not need politics. You banish politics from Manipur. I can give you a total roadmap of what should be done. What are the people, the people who can be called here? And, once the most important thing is how do you get the militarized zone completely demilitarized? When there's a feeling amongst the people or the militia on both sides, okay, there's a regime which is coming, which will be absolutely participating in a fair and unbiased manner. Look at the arms which are looted. Don't you think the process should start now? The CBI case has been instituted in that, where that horrible case of Kangpukpi district. But what about the arms which have been looted from the armory of Assam Rifles and this place? I mean, they know the names, and we can't go begging for arms to come back. There are 3,000 arms still floating around. Also the Sioux group, where we are talking about the arms verification is 100% required. Now, if you do these kind of actions, only then there will be a confidence building exercise. And with this kind of a political, absolute logjam, it's not helping. I mean, whose cause is it serving? Neither are they gaining by a PM statement or not statement. The action has to be on ground. That is the most important thing. And I do hope that the opposition members, even in writing, would give a kind of a 20-page document as to these are the things they should think should happen in Manipur. And there should be some kind of an agreement on that. Because the peace talks or the civil society or the peace councils can only function where there is a semblance of order. And for this semblance of order, the people should believe that there's a new regime which has come, which will act in an unbiased and a fair manner.
Geeta Rani ji, I just wanted to understand one more thing from you. You know, there's this, the chief minister is saying that the central government is saying that, you know, we are reaching out to both the Kuki and Maiti group. This is part of the submission which they have to submit to the Supreme Court. We heard former Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad saying that, you know, as per his information, people have started returning back to their villages, you know, both in Imphal as well as in Valley, Chura Chandpur and other places. Have people started returning back to their homes? Is there a degree of normalcy, howsoever remote you see, because you are from the ground, returning back to the places, or the situation is as volatile as it was, say, 48 to 72 hours before?
Okay, to clarify, I am not right now stationed at Imphal, but my family is there, and you know, from what I hear from them, there is no returning to their original place. It's not possible. You know, in Churchandpur, for example, the Meitei villages are totally wiped out. The houses are, you know, bulldozed. It's all flat areas. There is no question of returning back, especially also in Moreh, as you can see, the crisis is there. And also the Cookies community people who have gone from Imphal, they are not in a position to return to Imphal. So both sides, there is no actually report of anybody coming back to their houses. Normalcy is not back in the ground. This is a fact. And also, like, you know, regarding the situation being normalized, yesterday itself, in certain areas, there are stood downs, like shooting between the Kuki militants and commando happening. I believe it's in Trong Lao B, one place, a specific place there. So peace is not coming back anytime soon. That's why I was urging for disarming both sides, especially you know, like those heavily armed militants. And if this process starts, then only peace can be worked out. So political logjam, it's very disappointing to see all these things, you know, in the parliament happening there, and in the state government side also, like there is no meeting of mind among the politicians. So the CSOs have to come up from both sides and work out something on the ground, because from the politicians, we don't see any intention to actually resolve these issues between the communities. Yesterday, I heard there were some, you know, separate talks by the central government team separately with the Kuki people, community people, and Meitei community people. So, if something is being worked in the backdrop, that should be help also to, you know, actually both sides need to take a step back right now. All these sufferings are, you know, the leaders are not suffering much. It's the common people who are suffering. We see the accounts of individual, you know, family members giving their accounts of the horrors they are facing, the relief camps, you know, across community. If you hear them, like, tears will come in your eyes. These are real sufferings happening, and they are still in the relief camps. The rehabilitation program is being, you know, like state government is trying to rehabilitate them, but definitely there is no returning to their original homes. It's not possible right now, and they don't have homes to return to, especially in Churchandpur and Moreh.
Yashwardhan ji, it's a very strange and piquant situation where, you know, people are not trusting certain or are not trusting Assam Rifles. Cookies are not trusting Manipur police and Special Force Commando. Indian Army is not allowed to function with the kind of latitude they would appreciate, and they can be effective. So with these, the kind of triangle that is there, I mean, how do you go ahead with the disarming of of civilians, who are in possession of deadly assault rifles? How do you go about restoring peace and normalcy and strict implementation of law and order in the state? How does one go about it? How does one function, sir?
In fact, there is an added problem by the fabrication of weapons, and if you see the rifle-propelled grenades, which are there at these camps.
Yes, I agree with you, sir. Yesterday we showed one RPG being built.
From your only.
Exactly, sir.
So I saw that, and it gives you a very graphic picture. And each one of them can fire about 1 to 1.5 kilometers. So there's an added dimension that as long as this impasse continues, this kind of thing will continue and carry on. As far as the army goes, once again, I do believe, as Geetaji also might agree with me, there have always been, again, we are exposing old wounds. By bringing the army with the AFSAPA is not really the right year. Let me tell you that there are so many battalions of the CRPF over there, and they are there. They can be used. In fact, they could have even been used for when the SHOs were afraid to take resolute action against the culprits in those cases, which we are talking about, which has now been handed over to the CBI. So what I'm saying is the political logjam. I agree with Geetaji that the politicians are hardening their stance because they are carrying their political agenda, but at least they can agree at one thing. Even for the ruling party today, there is no political advantage in carrying on with this impasse. So why don't you give it to a president's rule, where at least you have some fine officers to deal with the problem. Forget the political issue right now. And as the first thing, I totally agree with Geetaji, that the first thing is the disarming. There is, as I said, it has become a militarized zone. So the first target should be demilitarization. If you have the Sioux groups over there, it is essential to have a verification and see that the arms are not floating here and there. From the police stations that the arms that have been looted, once you institute cases and once you start getting a few people in, the other weapons will also come in. So once you do that, it will convince the others that there is no longer the need to carry arms. And then these people, and if talks are going on, most welcome. Whether they are being done in a track 2 form or whether doing in open form, I am all for it. But the other thing is, it has to come from within. As Geetaji will agree with me, there is a very strong civil society group in Manipur. There is very strong women groups over there who have always come to the fore in bringing peace. There are also the constitution of the peace councils. Last time the peace councils did not function because, people out of ethnic loyalties, they left. They wanted to show they are very loyal to their, ethnic group, or some of them just left out of fear. So if you have, peace councils with academicians, with other people also, then people will have faith, okay, yes, they will also think about both the groups. But all this, before you do all this, there has to be that administrative machinery for people to see that the administrative machinery is working. That's why I'm saying it is not for a military solution that we are going for. It is for a stability in administration. And once that creates a kind of a sense of, a feeling of stableness in the minds of these two groups, then only they will lay down their arms and they'll be happy to do it. So the process has to start now before it gets too late.
See, the one way, there have been several experts relating to northeastern matters and all. They have talked about how, track 2 or certain committees, peace committees should come forward, if not from Meitei and Kukis, then others, from Naga, Meitei Muslims, Christians and others should come forward and start a dialogue, start a process as far as, restoring peace, or at least, making a dialogue happen between the two communities as far as peace is concerned. The second is what should be the role, according to you, of the women of the Meitei community and others, as far as, now they're playing a very effective active role. In fact, they are leading from the front when it comes to checking army and all, not to take those boys into custody. Shouldn't they be the one leading from the front as far as disarmament is concerned?
This question is to me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yes, the ladies, the Mera Paibis, and also the ladies from the Kuki community side, they do have a role, a big role, which they should take up and, like actively start demanding disarmament of, like the militants and the Meitei community who are, the boys who are actually getting armed. This can be taken up by the Mera Paibis and the ladies from the community side also, and by the CSOs also. This, if it is an united voice of demand from both sides for disarmament, the central government and the state government has to listen. This can be one step which can really help, like bringing both sides to the table for negotiation.
Okay, now let's listen into the soundbite of Central Minister and Sushmita Dev about what do they think of this situation which is happening in the Manipur, and also the impending visit about the India coalition to Manipur on Saturday and Sunday.
हम शुरू से ऑल पार्टी डेलीगेशन की मांग कर रहे थे मणिपुर जाने के लिए, पर सरकार ने उसको कोई महत्व नहीं दिया। क्यों? क्योंकि हम चाहते हैं कि वहां जाकर मणिपुर के लोगों को एक संदेश दे सके कि पूरा देश उनके साथ है। दूसरी बात यह है कि एक वायरल वीडियो की बात नहीं है। वायरल वीडियो के बाद प्रधानमंत्री मजबूर हुए टेलीविजन पे बोलने के लिए, पर सदन में वो आज तक नहीं बोले और ना वो आए हैं सदन में। ऐसे कई वीडियोएं मणिपुर से बाहर आएंगी जिस दिन इंटरनेट चलेगा। तो एक सीबीआई केस करके सिर्फ ये दिखाना कि हम कदम उठा रहे हैं, ये सिर्फ ऑप्टिक्स है, कुछ नहीं है। मैं अमित शाह जी से निवेदन करती हूँ, आप सिर्फ 24 घंटे के लिए इंटरनेट खोलिए मणिपुर में, इतने वीडियो निकल के आएंगे कि आपको पूरी देश की पुलिस और सीबीआई वहां लगानी पड़ेगी।
Yeah, but timing has already given. The matter will be discussed. It will come. Yeah, it's better let them go there. But the only thing is that after going there, if they can suggest some good things, that will be good. Otherwise, how can they bring that idea that can be discussed here? Government has to do the business, so that will be discussed. Already, Parliamentary Ministry has already announced that it will be discussed. Manipur issue will be discussed. Why they are not waiting till that?
वो अपने बंगाल में जो हुआ, तो बंगाल में तो बहुत ही खराब स्थिति है। वहाँ से बचने के लिए वो लोग मणिपुर जा रहे हैं। ये ड्रामा करने के लिए मणिपुर जाना उचित नहीं है। एंड एट द सेम टाइम देयर नेम इंडिया, एंड ग्रेजुअली पीपल आर रिजेक्टिंग दिस नेम बिकॉज इन इंडिया दिस इज INDIA, बट इन दिस इंडिया I के पर रुक जाओ, N.D.I.A। तो इसमें there will be no gain by this name. It is 100% because all the leaders and all the parties having different interest, and they are all the time related with some scams, and in their states they have made so many scams, and people will reject all of them.
And let's also have a look at the ground report which has been filed by our correspondent from Moreh, which shows the destruction and which is in its vivid light, and it'll be very interesting to see how the situation after 3 months, almost 3 months, has not changed much on the ground.
तस्वीरें देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से यहाँ पर जो हिंसा हुई, जो कल सुबह हिंसा शुरू हुई, उसके बाद देखिए किस तरीके से इस पूरे इलाके को, इन घरों को आग के हवाले किया गया है। मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित आपको तस्वीरें दिखाए। देखिए अभी भी जो यहाँ पर जिस घर को आग लगाई गई है उससे धुआं उठते हुए साफ तौर पर आप देख सकते हैं। ठीक सामने ये देखिए जितनी भी यहाँ पर दुकानें थी उन दुकानों को भी यहाँ पर आग के हवाले किया गया है। किस तरीके से जो घर का दरवाजा है वो उखाड़ दिया गया और उसके बाद जो उपद्रवी थे वो घर के अंदर घुसे और घर के अंदर घुस के ये देखिए किस तरीके से जितना भी सामान घर के अंदर रखा हुआ था उन सभी को आग के हवाले यहाँ पर किया गया है। यहाँ पर भी घर बने हुए थे। देखिए ठीक सामने, मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित आपको दिखाए, वहां पर बर्तन रखे हुए हैं। इसके अलावा अलमारी देखिए वहां पर खड़ी हुई है, जिससे साफ जाहिर होता है कि कहीं ना कहीं ये घर था, लेकिन इस घर को अब आग के हवाले कर दिया गया और ये घर अब राख में तब्दील हो चुका है। सुबह तकरीबन 6 बजे से लेकर शाम 5 बजे तक यहां पर कर्फ्यू खोला जाता है मोरे के अंदर, लेकिन कल सुबह 9 बजे अचानक से, जैसा कि एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का कहना है कि अचानक से कुछ हिंसक तत्व यहां पहुंचे और उसके बाद उन्होंने इन घरों को आग के हवाले करना शुरू कर दिया। ये दुकानें थी, ये देखिए इन दुकानों को भी यहां पर आग के हवाले किया गया है। जो सामान अंदर रखा हुआ था उस सामान को भी जला दिया गया और जब तक यहां फोर्स पहुंचती तब तक ये लोग आग लगा चुके थे। तब असम राइफल यहां पहुंची, असम राइफल ने रोकने की कोशिश की, लेकिन जो खबरें हमारे तक आ रही हैं, जो सूत्र हमारे बता रहे हैं कि जो उपद्रवी थे उन्होंने असम राइफल के ऊपर भी जमकर फायरिंग की। हालांकि उन्हें पीछे खदेड़ने में असम राइफल जो है कामयाब रही। ये देखिए ये दुकान है और इस दुकान को किस तरीके से जलाया गया है, ये भी देखिए दुकानें हैं, इन सभी दुकानों को यहाँ पर जलाकर राख कर दिया गया है। हालांकि जो सूत्रों के हवाले से खबर मिल रही है, जो कि लोकल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का भी कहना है कि दरअसल जिस वक्त ये हिंसा शुरू हुई उससे पहले इस बात की इत्तला मिली थी कि म्यांमार के बॉर्डर से कुछ ऐसे तत्व हैं जो अत्याधुनिक हथियार होते हैं, सोफिस्टिकेटेड वेपन्स होते हैं, उनके साथ उन्होंने हिंदुस्तान के अंदर घुसपैठ की, इस मोरे इलाके के अंदर घुसपैठ की और उसके बाद सुबह 9 बजे अचानक से सबसे पहले आगजनी शुरू की गई। और जब असम राइफल ने इसका विरोध किया तो उसके बाद उन तमाम उपद्रवियों ने, और जो बताया जा रहा है कि असम म्यांमार की तरफ से सोफिस्टिकेटेड वेपन्स के साथ आए थे, उन्होंने असम राइफल के ऊपर फायरिंग करना शुरू कर दिया। तो कहा जा सकता है कि इस वारदात को जो अंजाम दिया, इस हिंसा को जो अंजाम दिया, उसके पीछे सबसे अहम रोल जो है वो म्यांमार से आए घुसपैठियों का था। ये देखिए कि व्हीकल है जिसको पूरे तरीके से जलाकर यहां पर राख कर दिया गया, उसको तोड़ा गया। ये देखिए ठीक सामने एक और मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित बालियान तस्वीरें आपको दिखाए। ये देखिए किस तरीके से यहां पर जितने व्हीकल यहां पर खड़े हुए थे, टू व्हीलर्स, उनको भी यहां पर जलाया गया है। तो कहा जा सकता है कि जमकर यहां पर सुबह उत्पात मचाया गया। हालांकि 3 मई के बाद से ये कहा जा रहा है कि जो मोरे था वो पूरे तरीके से शांत था। ये जो इलाका है दरअसल कुकी डोमिनेटेड इलाका है और यहाँ पर शांति थी, लेकिन अचानक से कल सुबह यहाँ पर हिंसा शुरू हुई और हिंसा का नतीजा आप ये देखिए, इस पूरे इलाके को किस तरीके से यहाँ पर जलाया गया उपद्रवियों के द्वारा। मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित आपको अंदर की तस्वीरें दिखाएं। ये देखिए ये घर है और इस घर पे देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर भी उत्पात मचाया गया है। ये तस्वीरें आप देख सकते हैं, घरों को आग लगाई गई और ये देखिए अंदर यहाँ पर एक ऑटो स्कूटर खड़ा हुआ था, इस ऑटो को भी यहाँ पर जलाकर राख कर दिया गया। घरों के अंदर जमकर बताया जा रहा है कि लूटपाट भी यहाँ पर की गई है। तो आप इसी से समझ सकते हैं कि किस तरीके से यहाँ पर उत्पात मचाया गया है। और बताया जा रहा है कि ये जो इलाका है दरअसल जिस वक्त यहाँ पर उपद्रवी पहुंचे हैं तो बाकायदा यहाँ पर उपद्रवियों ने इस आगजनी को अंजाम देने के लिए जो बम होते हैं, देसी बम, पेट्रोल बम, उनका यहाँ पर ज्यादा से ज्यादा इस्तेमाल किया था। पेट्रोल बम यहाँ पर फेंके गए और जब यहाँ पर असम राइफल पहुंची उन्होंने रोकने की कोशिश की, लेकिन उपद्रवियों ने उल्टा पुलिस के ऊपर यहां पर फायरिंग शुरू कर दी, असम राइफल के ऊपर फायरिंग शुरू कर दी, जिसका जवाब असम राइफल की तरफ से दिया गया और उनको पीछे खदेड़ा गया।
He thought he could outlast us. And 1 year later, the evidence is right here in this room.
Who will blink first? So far from preventing the expansion of NATO, Russian actions have actually resulted in the expansion of NATO.
It's a mess for Russia and it's a mess for the Western world, for NATO and the United States.
Putin is a dictator, and if he loses, that means the end of his regime.